look what I have just for you because I had to today.
Oh, special. I was like, that's very black. That's very fashion. And then you revealed your true self.
My true self. For context, for those who are not watching the video, which is a vast majority of you, it says directed by Ryan Johnson. I don't know if you know what it means, guys, but this is the only point of disagreement on this show between Matt and me is The Last Jedi, right?
Are we going to talk about Last Jedi today? Do you want to do this today?
However, look for you, because my favorite. I mean, I love Last Jedi. I'll remove the fake bouquet.
That's more like it.
Yeah, that's a poster behind me. The Empire Strikes Back. That's a 1990 poster. It's really hard to get by. I bought it in 1991. It's a 10-year anniversary one. And it usually doesn't sit behind me, Matt, but I wanted to have it because it's you on the show.
Special. I appreciate that very much.
So that's your favorite as well, the one behind me, The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I would say so. But I think, those movies evolve over time. And I think kind of you find moments within each of them as you go. And I think that's the sign of incredible movies, right? Look, who knows? Maybe in 20 years' time, I might even say that The Last Jedi is some kind of acceptable film.
So before we lose everyone, because we're talking about Star Wars, I mean, still, look, I'm going to show a last thing on the video, which actually going to probably encompass everything we're going to talk about today, including Star Wars. It's da, 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 da. This is not the right song. I'm doing Superman. This is the ANA Star Wars plane. This is a 780.
Did you ever fly on that?
No. Have you?
No, I haven't.
What? You, Matt, you've never flown the ANA?
I mean, obviously I've flown ANA, but I've never had the pleasure of flying on either their R2-D2 or C-3PO. They never did a Chewbacca one. You kind of feel like that would have been an amazing one to do. But
well, they just can have me. I'm very hairy as a Greek, that would have been, The only wrong thing about this box, which I'm holding now, ANA Star Wars plane, is I don't have a full plane. For those who are not watching the video, my house is not that big. I just have like the box with the plane. It says Disney. What's this? Anyway, that's another thing about Star Wars. Well, the only reason I keep, and then guys, promise you we'll talk about planes. The only reason I keep Disney Plus these days is because of the Scrubs revival. I don't know if you ever watched that show. I love that show, and I've just watched 3 episodes, and that's it. Okay, I'm keeping Disney Plus, but no Scrubs today. Let's wish us.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
Good luck. Don't worry, guys. I'll introduce Matt properly after the music. You've heard his name many times, actually. You're like this, unsung hero. We kept referring to you, but no one knows who you are. So finally, you're here.
Honestly, it's quite a surreal moment to actually be on the show, because all the years of kind of listening through it, particularly through the pandemic, when it was like this beacon of light and hope of kind of everything I'd lost in my life to what might be in the future. But no, thrilled to be on.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, Matt as you understood, he loves Star Wars. He loves flying, actually. We will talk about it, of course, in the show. But you love, how would I say, do you love design? I don't know if that's the proper term, but you probably do. I'll let you introduce yourself in a minute. But before we move to the music, do you know the is he a designer? He's more an illustrator. Hajime Sorayama?
Yeah.
So I mean, you can tell, you probably know better than me. Responsible for Sony Aibo. Sony Aibo is that dog? How do you describe it? Is it a robot dog?
Robot dog, yeah.
Yeah. So Starlux, the airline I think he's from Taipei. Starlux, and not Star Wars. They're rolling out Starlux Air Sorayama livery, 2 of them actually. One is goldish, and the other one is kind of blue and silverish. Man, man, they look absolutely stunning because for the first time on carbon fiber, someone has been, and it's probably, sorry, I might just did the design, but the idea behind it, but they have this kind of chrome effect. So
that's super interesting. Now, they're the ones that have the really nice lounges, right?
Yeah, I've never flown. Have you flown Starlux?
No, but I'm sure I have seen online some videos of their lounges and like, ooh, just sleek, cool. I'm sure it's Starlux, but yeah.
Yeah, so
that makes sense, right?
If you haven't had the chance to fly Star Wars planes, and United has actually also had, which the same as me.
They're retiring those, right?
Yeah, exactly. At least I might have. It's not exactly the same thing, but I might have the benefit of flying that Starlux. I hope so, because this livery, guys, just look it up. It's absolutely stunning. It's something out of Star Wars, actually. It looks like a spaceship. Anyway, let's run the music, and then I'll finally let you introduce yourself properly. So, we're going to talk about planes, promise you, not Star Wars, though there's probably links. Maybe we'll talk about fashion too, and especially, it's not the whole reason I invited you, but I want you to talk about that flight you took to Perth. But first, tell us, who are you?
Oh, hi. So, yeah, I'm Matt Drinkwater. I work at London College of Fashion. I'm their head of innovation. So I lead the innovation team, kind of messing around with emerging technologies and trying to figure out ways where the fashion industry can adapt and adopt new technologies in kind of how it creates and how it showcases. So yeah, we have a lot of fun, from everything from wearable technology to obviously artificial intelligence, but lots of immersive technologies as well. So, your virtual reality headsets, your Vision Pros, all of those sorts of things.
That's so fascinating. You keep showing me things, or simply sometimes you put hints of what you're doing on your Instagram stories. And I'm like, how does he get to play with all that cool stuff? I remember, were you not at some point playing, and I'll promise you guys we'll go to planes, but we'll talk about technology later on in the show, because I want to ask you a few questions. Were you not playing with the similar technology that we use in Mandalorian, which is kind of the volume, which is volumetric? So these big screens, basically. You can explain that better than I do. So please tell us.
Yeah, we do. So, I mean, look, all of our work is kind of looking at how we digitize every element of the fashion industry. And so we do a lot of body tracking, a lot of motion capture work. So, the funny suits, and we were able to kind of track the body in a physical space, but then translate that immediately into a digital world. And like over the years, that's enabled us to have incredible collaborations with kind of big tech and the likes of Lucasfilm. Not so long ago, the college managed to install its own LED volume. So we have this huge space where we have big LED screens, so we can shoot real people, but in a digital world. So you kind of get a sense of, this ability to place people anywhere at any time and change every element of that. So that is the technology that was deployed in The Mandalorian, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a good place to be.
No, you're making me, regret the past 10 years, 11 now years of this podcast, because I never tried to monetize it, which was never the play. It was always a hobby, and I wanted to keep it that way so I can have like freedom of talking about whatever we want. But if I had done it, I would have maybe had the money to hire your studio to actually record this with the volumetric screens behind me and change fashion as we were speaking, or maybe display planes or something, right?
I mean, I've seen a few podcasts like of people within the industry, within the kind of visual effects industry, using virtual backgrounds, and not your standard Teams virtual background, but kind of a real LED volume. Like, we could actually do that at the college. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. So eventually, one day I'll reach out. One day I'll help you with big planes behind us. We met, maybe for context, for some reason, I thought we had met earlier, but we met because you put a story again on your Instagram in 2016 in Sofia, I think, in Bulgaria.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So it's been, there was this trend maybe a few months ago about everybody putting their memories of 2016 for some reason. And you said, this is where I met Paul. I'm like, oh, I thought it was earlier, but so it's been 10 years actually.
It is. So I met both yourself and Alex. I remember Alex and I sharing a taxi on the way from the airport to the venue.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And all those years, it was just before kind of the Brexit vote, and I was feeling very confident. You were less sure, and the rest is history, right?
The rest is history. Yeah, I'm not always good at forecasting, but sometimes. And before we go to flights, last thing that we share, and that was hinted at the fact that I showed this ANA Star Wars plane. We both have a history with Japan. But our histories don't overlap. You used to live in Japan before I did, and for actually far longer than I did. When was that? The early 2000s or something like
that? That's so late 90s, early 2000s, and then I mean, we can talk about it later. But my first visit was mid 90s, and that sparked a fascination and a love for the country, which kind of persisted and led to me working there for between the UK and Japan for many years. So. Yeah, it's a place that is, I think, for both of us, it has a fond place in our hearts.
Yes, it has. We will talk about it. We will talk about what it evokes to you. But the reason I spoke to you, I mean, it's been a while I wanted to have you on the podcast, because you fly actually through your work and also simply through leisure for your holidays. You've flown all around as well. I think at some point Alex said that you put us to shame with what kind of stuff you're flying. And the one we never talked about, it's an airline I talked about only once during the life of this podcast, is Qantas. And you've flown that almost near-Kangaroo route from London to Perth and back, which, by the way, we will hint at this later on, guys, because we're recording this on the ominous date, Friday, March the 13th, 2026. That route is not actually in flight anymore because of the situation in the Middle East. They cannot refuel. It would be too long to avoid all the airspaces that now all the airlines need to avoid to come to Europe or to fly outside of Europe towards the east. So Qantas to Perth, and I said the only time I mentioned, I think I was flying Qantas is I did one Dubai to London when they stopped, when they were stopping at Dubai instead of Singapore. But please, tell us a little bit about, I mean, you can tell in any way, shape or form, if you want to give us a context or not, or just about the flight, what you felt. I mean, you don't have to follow whatever we do with Alex and Vino, just do whatever you want about this flight, because I'm really curious about how you survived the 17 plus hours.
So yeah, it was really exciting because I had the opportunity to go to Brisbane to speak at a conference, and the organizers of the conference were like, you can choose whatever route you want to take. And I mean, I think the obvious route was, we're connecting somewhere. That's what most people do. And most people are flying into Sydney and then kind of doing their domestic hop up to Brisbane that way. But, I looked at it and I wanted to do that flight. Like I'd never had the opportunity to fly as long as that. And I remember posting at the time, like, this is going to be my longest flight ever. And you said, yeah, until you come back, because it'll be even longer on the way back, which struck even more fear into me. But it was a choice that I made. So yeah, looking at, because BA used to fly that as well. So I wondered whether they would have that option, but no, it was just Qantas. And, I was very fortunate to be able to upgrade to business class, which on a, 16, 17 hour flight, it is something which, I was apprehensive, but at the same time, I think when you're in business class for that amount of time, it's like, well, let's max it out.
Had you ever done, of course not as long, but had you ever done like a 14, 15 hour flight before, or was it like complete out of bounds compared to what you had done in the past?
What I think what was interesting, because obviously you and I do Japan on a fairly regular basis, and the situation around Ukraine and Russia has enforced a different route for many flights into Japan. So that direct flight from London to Tokyo is a 14-hour flight, right?
Yeah, 14 and a half, yeah.
It is a long flight. And yeah, so that prior to that was the longest that I'd done direct. And so I was really surprised. Like my takeaway from the flight and the length of it was that actually it was okay. And look, no doubt being in business class makes an enormous difference to that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would want to be doing that in economy, but look, plenty of people do. That flight is full.
Oh,
apparently every time they head off, it is full. So it in terms of length, and also kind of jet lag, it didn't feel too bad. You leave Heathrow at midday, you get to Perth at midday, and you've done all of them. And again, because you're flying to West Coast Australia, like your time difference is not so terrible. I think it's 7-8 hours. I forget what it was, but it doesn't feel like such a big body shock as maybe flying into Sydney.
Really? Because I remember you were, again, referring to your Instagram stories. You did stay in Perth before moving to Brisbane, if I remember correctly.
I did, yeah.
And I remember, especially what I remember is like, I feel no jet lag. There's no way you cannot not feel any jet lag.
Yeah, I mean, look, you feel a little bit as you would do flying any, like a little bit blurry, but I can say that direct flight, and particularly because during summertime as well, the time difference isn't so big. Summertime UK.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It felt good. So I want to say that is a route that if I was going back, and look, it's an expensive flight. There's no doubt about that. But what a way to do it. And, the business class was very interesting. I mean, I think when you get to Heathrow Terminal 3, I'm such a sucker because, like, I watch all of the videos. I will do as much research as you or anyone else. Maybe not as much as you, but I was drawn obviously into the Qantas lounge, and the Qantas lounge at T3 is good. And you have the two options of downstairs. You have like table service, and then a really nice menu, and upstairs is a little bit more casual, and they've got the buffet up there. But the big thing that everybody talks about at the Qantas lounge is the salt and pepper squid. And you have to order this salt and pepper squid from the Qantas lounge, which, look, if anyone is out there, if anyone has the opportunity to drop into the Qantas lounge at Terminal 3 at London Heathrow, 10 out of 10. It's
really.
And, I feel like such a sucker because I'll do all of these Instagram food things and I'll go try them. And usually they're absolutely terrible and massively overrated and just Instagram. But this one, guys, is a win. I'm going to say salt and pepper squid at the Qantas lounge is one of those top rated things that should not be missed.
Oh, well, I would have never, because I'm like you. When I see all, comments, stories, blog posts about food in lounges or even planes, usually I'm like, yeah, it's because you don't really have a choice. It's not as if you have a choice of 25 restaurants or you can switch airplanes mid-air to try something else. So you're going to say it's good for the context of where you are.
Yeah.
But that you say 10 out of 10. Wow. You know what? Because I had many times the opportunity to enter the Qantas lounge because it's part of One World when you're at T3.
Yeah.
And I always default to the Cathay Pacific lounge, which is next door. Because if you read any reviews anywhere, it'll tell you default to that one because it has the best balance between food and quality of the design and the views and blah, blah, blah. I mean, the views are not even sure because they're really literally next to each other. So I've never been to the Qantas lounge because I always see, let's go. Last time was a month ago?
One reason to go there. So you go in, you eat your salt and pepper squid, and then you go back to Cathay Pacific.
I should do that, totally. Especially because I have only 15 days or whatever, like 2 weeks, because I'm losing silver.
No.
Yes. I mean, we'll talk about BA and status a bit later. But so this is why the last time, again, it was a few weeks ago, I said, come on, could be the last time when I can enter like freely this lounge without having to fly, especially business class. I can just enter it as a, I don't remember. I was flying. I was flying to Rome in economy or something. Maybe I don't remember. And it doesn't really matter. The point is, I was in the Cathay Pacific. I should have gone to the Qantas lounge. Now you're making me regret. Oh wow! So it's okay.
I'll let that sit with you, and when you get the opportunity, it's a good one. It's a good one. And then look, I mean, I think kind of the business class experience on Qantas is, and you and I have both been very fortunate to fly a lot of airlines, it's really solid. Look, it's not your Middle Eastern or Asian carrier, but look, I want to say the staff, the crew were fantastic, hugely engaging, very Australian.
I love that.
Always going to be very welcoming, and chatty. And you get on the fly, and the first thing you do is you kind of make your breakfast selections, because you have a choice of whether you want to be woken up or whatever, because they'll be serving breakfast at a particular time, which a lot of people are sleeping on the plane. So you put all of that in first.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, the food was good. The thing which stands out to me the most, my biggest memory of the food is, like, particularly when you fly Middle Eastern, they'll put they'll set out your table for you, and the tablecloth will go down, and then that doesn't happen with Qantas. And I'm kind of used to, like, when you get a main course, right? You have, and I'm sure at home you have larger plates for your main course, and then maybe you have a side plate.
Correct.
Which is slightly smaller.
Yeah.
Like, all of their main dishes were served on what appeared to be a side plate.
Oh.
It was just one of those, and they literally just, like, put it down, and it was it was just that noticeable difference between top rank business class flights and a step below that. But look, you get it's a Dreamliner, so the seat was good. I think, look, if we're going to get pernickety here, the mattress is perhaps not as thick as some of those Middle Eastern flights. And honestly, when you're flying 17 hours, that realization that, as lucky and as fortunate as we are to fly business, 100%. This is not a bed. You're still on something which is kind of firmer than it would be if you were getting into a bed.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of moments at sort of 12 hours, 14 hours in, where you're beginning to think, oh my, this is testing my levels of perseverance beyond what I thought was possible. But
did you sleep at all?
Yeah, I did. I probably got a good sort of 6 or 7 hours sleep, which is really, it's, for me, who rarely sleeps. And I think probably similar to you, I'm so excited to fly business class. And I was having a conversation with a friend who flew business class from Tokyo to London recently on ANA. And I haven't done that yet.
And you want the room, the large... Oh, God.
And I'm like, oh my God. And they just slept. And they didn't... And I'm like, okay,
you didn't play with all the buttons?
I know. I was like, I'm ordering everything from the menu. I'm like, champagne, bring all of it. I want it all. I want that experience. And in a way, I don't ever want to lose that sense of excitement.
I agree. It's almost like being a kid, and I think it's also something, the realization, like you said, of being so lucky. It's not only the fact that it's comfortable. Of course, all that it's comfortable. The food is better. You can sleep, all that. But it's also just being, grateful that it happens. And no matter, I know that for people listening to this podcast for years, they think and feel that I only fly business class because these are the flights I want to talk about, because these are the most interesting ones, because it's harder to find something really nice or interesting to say about 17 hours in economy to Perth, for instance, which I haven't done. However, I'm like you. Every time I'm in a business class, even if it's not, the best I've flown, I'm like, I'm so lucky and it's so cool and I want to try everything. And how do the buttons work? And I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's So yeah, I mean, I try to stay awake and engage with kind of every element of that experience. Okay, what's my menu? What am I ordering? I'll know all of that in advance and kind of have a good sense of.
Oh, so you want to do checking the menu in advance before you enter?
I have to know. Like I get it. So my kids probably despise me because I'll sit down with them and say, "Look, what should I order?" And they're like, "Dad, honestly, come on, get out of here. We don't care." But beyond that, it's kind of what else can you order? What are your options throughout the flight? And one of those magical things about flying an Australian airline is like they do you bacon sandwiches through the flight, which for a Brit is like, are you kidding me? Oh yes, I am. I'm going to be indulging in bacon sandwiches and champagne.
I remember the days in the 2010s, so before COVID, and until I don't remember when Qantas switched back to Singapore. I think it's 2017, but I could be mistaken. So when they had this tie-up, when it was, their stop, I think they called it the Falcon route. Instead of stopping in Singapore from Australia to London, for instance, they would actually stop in Dubai. And because of the tie-up in Emirates, which, as you know, is the airline that was flying the most in the 2010s, they had in the menu in business class, but also in first, they had a Qantas option, which was a sandwich. And sometimes I would be in first class when you can have the caviar or whatever. I'm like, I'm going for the sandwich. And they would look at me like, are you insane? I'm like, no, I want the sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, it was a no-brainer for me. I'm like, give it to me. I want it all. They were great. They were incredibly engaging. The staff were lovely, attentive throughout. So it was a really fun flight. And for as long as it was, and you kind of, I think in your mind, you have this vision of this feels like it will be long. It's one or two moments aside, it seemed to go by very quickly. I mean, in-flight entertainment was fine, nothing exceptional to report. Selection fine.
Do you grab some content always just in case with you?
So actually, I did for that, and one of the reasons I did do that is because they are one of the few airlines these days that have no Wi-Fi.
Oh, for 17 hours.
For 17 hours you are, and I know when I have this conversation with people, I think there is this very divergent response that you get. Some people are like, amazing, what a joy. And
as in the only moment in life nowadays when you can be fully disconnected. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know I think plans are this year to roll that out across all of their international flights. And I can touch on the domestic flights, but they do it domestically, but not internationally. But for me, that first was probably 4 hours or 5 hours. You're just like, do I have one? No, okay. And then another 2 minutes later, no, I don't. They don't. Before you finally accept that you are on this flight. And so, yeah, downloading content beforehand was kind of an essential. So, yeah, I have plenty of Match of the Days and whatever. I think Alien Earth was running at the time. So maybe a few episodes of Alien Earth.
That's a good show. I like that one.
I enjoyed that show a lot.
Especially for not only, of course, the cinematography was great, but the design of the props, the set designs were absolutely.
It felt very true to the originals.
To the heritage of that, exactly. This is something that I really enjoyed. And I know it's kind of these kind of, we are the age, because we're a similar era, we're the age where we tend to look back, oh, this was so cool, all this kind of, older, but it's not, nostalgia can be the enemy of progress. And I think neither of us are like that. We're not like just looking at the past, but it's so cool still as just admiring what they can try to do to imitate, stuff that used to be. So it feels like an extension of a universe that you met 30 years ago.
Exactly. And I think kind of any opportunity to be immersed into a world that you have some kind of connection to feels like something that, Blade Runner being a similar one, like I could watch Blade Runner 2049 for just hours. Where it is hours and hours long, but Denis Villeneuve has that ability to create worlds which I could simply, I don't care what the storyline is, I want to be in that world and to watch what he's making.
And then you forget about Wi-Fi in a plane when you have these kind of experiences.
Exactly. So no, I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I'm glad that I did it. And I think in many ways of kind of that negating of jet lag, I would always seek to kind of fly direct as often as I could, because later in the year I flew to Bali and had to connect in Qatar, and my jet lag into Bali was far worse than it was for flying into Perth.
I'll ask you about Qatar a bit later, because I want to keep on just the Australia bit, because I'm interested. Because then, so you stayed a few days in Perth. Just in a few words, is Perth worth it? I've never been. Was it a nice city? Did you just wanted to explore a bit, or?
Yeah, it was one of the. I'd never done Western Australia, and I had always wanted to visit Perth just because of that kind of iconic, most isolated cities in the world. And I loved Western Australia. Look, I only had a few days to kind of explore Perth in the vicinity. But do I want to go back and kind of drive up that West Coast? And, so much of it is so extraordinarily beautiful. And it would be my main takeaway from going back to Australia, because it was the first time I'd been back for 20 plus years.
Oh, wow.
Just what an incredibly beautiful place it is. So yeah, I would, go beyond Perth. Perth is an amazing place to stop, but that gateway to the rest of Western Australia, that feels like a must do for anyone that has the opportunity. So yeah, that was a few days in Perth, and then it was onwards to Brisbane, which, in by itself is still a hefty old flight. That's a 5.5 hour flight.
That country is huge, man.
It's just, again, that realization, oh my God, how big is the country. So Perth Airport is really cute. I kind of liked Perth Airport. I know it gets a bad rap from locals or whatever, but it's very small. It's kind of this circular terminal for domestic flights. And I enjoyed being there. And there's something about regional airports that I really, really love. But yeah, flying to Brisbane, you fly 737 to Brisbane, and these are older planes, and it was the first time that I had ever flown on a plane where they had removed the screens from in the seats. You still had, those flap down monitors, which back in the day we always used to watch the movie. What's the movie going to be? And the monitor would drop down. So they had those to show the in-flight map. But what you had to do for your in-flight entertainment was download the Qantas app prior to you flying, and all of your IFE is delivered through your smartphone or whatever tablet device you're bringing on there. Domestically, they do have Wi-Fi, so you have all of those services available. So I guess you could download the app once you're on board anyway. But
did you do it?
I did do it, yeah. And you obviously can get your in-flight map, and then all of the movies were available to watch. But look, if you were taking an iPad, great. Maybe that's one way that you could do it. But I didn't have an iPad with me. It's my smartphone. And do I want to watch a movie on my smartphone? I was kind of like, guys, I'm fine. And I see the benefit in doing it. Look, it was a very simple, seamless process for people to do. And you can see where airlines may want to cut down on kind of that infrastructure and building that spec so that, it's so competitive. You kind of feel this is where airlines are beginning to make decisions about what is their future direction. I didn't mind it. It wasn't for me. I think you posted on stories that I if I'm going to consume content, I want it on a massive screen. And then when you fly Turkish in economy these days, you get a massive screen.
Yeah.
For you, and it's a similar kind of flight from London to Istanbul.
Istanbul.
So it's a little bit
4
longer.
hours. Yeah. I agree. 3 and something. I would say and then I'll let you continue, for like a short haul, like 1 hour, an hour and a half in Europe. Sometimes I just like my phone and I say, I'll watch a Family Guy on the phone. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But it's true that if it's like stretching to mid long haul, I'm like, no. It would be nicer to have like, I used to fly actually with my an iPad. I still have the same iPad that I had like for 10 years and it still works for just content.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and look, I was flying economy for the internal flight, and the service was great. Like, they still give you a meal. They still rip around drinks. You can
unheard of in Europe, a meal in economy.
It's like, wow, what, this is wild. And then, once service is done and you've had your drinks, they bring round an iconic Australian ice cream. So you get Gay Time ice lolly, which it was great. I cannot say anything but positive stuff for Qantas and my experience of them during that journey, both kind of heading inbound to Australia and then back to London. It was great. My only thing would be is like, if it's in-flight entertainment for me, it has got to be a massive screen. Yeah, that's it. Have you ever had that experience where your entertainment is just on your smartphone?
Yeah, the last one was actually in November when I flew that Chicago to. What was it? No, it wasn't. No, it was. I was about to say that United was where there was a small screen. No, there was one other, but I cannot remember which one in the last few months. Whether it was all stream, maybe Austrian. Was it Austrian? Could have been Austrian. Anyway, when it was like a streaming, and I tested it just because I wanted to see how it works, but I was not planning to watch content. But I'm sure it works really well. I think it must be a debate within each airline to say, what do we offer? Do we offer screens, or do we say it's? And I'm excluding the so-called low cost here, because of course they will not want to, if they even have Wi-Fi, but they might not want to offer you. But yeah, it's I don't know. I kind of feel, and it's as a pure passenger like you, I kind of feel it's cool to have a screen because I can play with it with something I don't know how it will be, the UI will be. What kind of content did I not discover before onboarding? Because I never, to what we just were discussing a few minutes ago, I do not check the menus, but I do check what are they going to play on the IFE, because that kind of tells me what content should I bring on board. Because sometimes I'm like, I've seen this. I think, oh my God, I've got. Last time, actually, I hadn't seen the latest Superman. I hadn't seen, I forgot which other one. There's a few movies I said, Formula One with Brad Pitt. I was like, I haven't seen that. Fine. So I had I had 3 or 4 movies that I would ready I'm ready to go. I still have backup content in case. But the food, I never check. The food is like Discovery. Let's see what happens.
It was a great flight, I have to say. I really enjoyed it. And, your descent into Brisbane Airport, you kind of go over rainforest, you get in. And I mean, I was really fortunate that evening. The sunset was extraordinary, that kind of deep orange that we don't really get over here. That's
an understatement. We don't get it.
You're somewhere else. It was... the rainforest and then the ocean, and just the color of the ocean as you come into Queensland. It was a magnificent descent. And Brisbane Airport is just one of those airports where I was taken aback by size, scale, amount of instructions in Chinese everywhere.
Oh, wow.
I'm assuming is because of the money that was used to build the airport and to extend it, which they're currly doing as well. But
so you're saying it's a massive airport? It's a big airport?
It felt really big.
Oh, wow. Yeah, never been, so I cannot.
Yeah, much bigger than I was expecting. But yeah, what an amazing journey, and kind of felt like an iconic trip. But, in the back of my mind was like, oh, Qantas are getting closer to that London to Sydney direct, which, would I ever consider doing that in economy? Absolutely not. So it's going to need an amazing sponsor. If anyone's listening, I'm here to deliver all the content on Instagram.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be. I think it's planned. I mean, the before the current events in the Middle East, because that can delay stuff. We'll talk about a little bit about it because it's not a political show, but still it impacts the flying world. But before all that started, I remember that Qantas said they wanted to start this in 2027, so in a year's time-ish, depending when in 2027, and it would take 20 hours.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very long flight. The longest I've ever done is nearly 17 or 17. It was, I think, Dallas to Hong Kong, and 16-something was probably London to Jakarta, when this doesn't exist anymore. And it was mostly due because they had usually it's less, but I think they had to do reroutes because of the weather or whatever. And maybe Seoul to New York was also 16 plus, I think, also, almost going through the North Pole or something. 20 hours seems long if you're not. And all these flights, by the way, guys, all these flights are done in business. So, of course, they feel different that if I had to do the longest I've done in economy, I think must have been 13 hours, 12 hours. And that felt really long because, especially as a tall, you're tall as well. You cannot see that on video or you've not met Matt, but in economy, if you also have a crappy seat, you're like, come on, for 12 hours? I mean, even 6 is already hard enough.
And, I know you're a kind of window seat devotee, but...
I agree. I know what you're going to say, and I think I agree with you.
If I'm flying economy long haul, I'm always in the aisle just because I need a sense of...
Yep.
If I'm not getting a bulkhead, I need that sense of being close to freedom, of having the ability to maybe move my legs without touching someone else. I just,
I agree. I've changed a bit. If I'm in economy, I'll sometimes choose, I know it will be anathema to a lot of people listening, but I might sometimes choose even simply in short haul. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? Plus, I'm not going to see anything in the UK because it's going to be grey and humid and rainy. It's not as if, and I've seen this view many, many times. And if it's an hour, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be on the AL. Let's say when I fly EasyJet, which as you know, I fly quite a lot. Sometimes I'll take the AL, whatever. I can get exit fast as well. I can just leave and that's
exactly. I think quite often when I'm doing those European short haul flights, you're going for work, you're heading somewhere. It's like I just need to get off the flight. Let's go, guys. I don't need grey, murky clouds.
Since you mentioned that Project Sunrise is the name, so the true Kangaroo route. The Kangaroo route was, born in the 30s, but in the 30s, I think they had 40 stops from Sydney to London. 40 stops! Can you believe this? It would take you 20 days or something. But the I think the original term comes just after the Second World War. And just after the Second World War, it was still, you know what? I think they would land in Croydon at that time. Can you believe that?
Yeah, there is that. That's not the station. The model, the huge plane model in Croydon.
Yes, that was where the airport was. So I think post-war, I think it's the introduction of the Constellation. I think they were doing 7 or 8 stops, and then over time it lessened when they had the 707-300. That was still 30 hours, but I think it was not 3 days or 4 days anymore, and it was still 4 or 5 stops. And then, of course, the big change was the 747. I think they did 2 stops, Singapore and Bahrain to refuel, and then they were in London or something like that. And then, of course, in the 90s, the 747-400, which we know because we're in that generation who were looking to fly that. That was through Singapore. That was 24 hours. Still 24 hours, man. I think that when they introduced the 318, they switched. What I was talking earlier, they switched for a while to Dubai. It was still 23 hours, so it was still very long. It's a long flight. But the reason I mentioned this is because there was a, I forgot the name of the company, but there's this company do luxury holidays, They do train stuff, and they do like old routes, the Silk Road and whatever. And they redone, and I think it happened this month, last month in February, the original Kangaroo route. I think they went from Sydney to London with 6 or 7 stops. They didn't stop in Karachi, which was part of the original stops. I think they replaced that with Colombo, I want to say. Okay. And it didn't stop in Tripoli in Libya, and I think they just skipped that and went directly to Rome. But still, of course, in a luxury, I think the flight, the tickets were going for £70,000 or something. But of course, that included.
Maybe we could consider this.
But I think they included. It was not only the flight. I think in every stop. So there was probably Singapore. There must have been, as I said, Calcutta, for sure, because it was always a stop from back in the day. I think in every stop they would do like maybe 2 days of visiting the city, and I'm sure it was also luxury. I think it was a chartered 350 from Qantas that they chartered. It was a one thing. It's not going to be you cannot just. Would you have done that?
You know what? I think kind of those sorts of epic journeys have always been something which there's a sense of fascination around. So, yeah, it brings kind of this sense of adventure when you go beyond what is considered to be a normal route or anything like that. Kind of when there's an opportunity to push boundaries a little bit. That feels, and it brings back, you have this sense of nostalgia of how travel used to be, of these golden days of travel. So yeah, I all of those are extraordinary. I mean, when you see companies like that and the prices they attach to it, I think it brings up how fortunate we are sometimes to travel business and those for who this is normal. Like at that price, who is that consumer and what? Wow. Okay.
Actually, a lot of them are, and it's not a diss, and a lot of them are corporate consumers. The most people I've met that fly a lot of long haul, a lot in business class or up, are usually, it's paid by corporate. It doesn't lessen their experience, but it also probably, I don't know, if somebody else is paying or if it's part of your job, maybe you're enjoying less. I don't know. I mean, people are like you. People are paying for some of flights, like the one you just described. Like,
it's not you. That's a holiday, right? So someone's paying for that.
Yes, that's always been my thing. I'm like, I mean, of course, I'm going to enjoy that.
Yeah, that's the point at which you begin to think, does this just become your everyday? Wow.
There was a story then which allows me to go to another flight. I don't remember where, but I think you mentioned it. Maybe I'm wrong. That reminds me, there was the story just before COVID of people, I think it were French people doing ultra long haul commuting. So they would be with their families in France during the weekend, and they would work in Singapore during the weekend. I'm like, how do you do this? I mean, it sounds cool if you love flying, but for the first 3 weeks, and then you're like, man, no way.
Yeah, that is an absolute no for me. As much as I love flying, I think kind of the making that a choice, that is, that is hardcore.
That's hardcore. So Singapore Airlines, but maybe my memory is not correct. Did you not fly them long haul? Was it not one of the ones as well that you had a good experience with? Or maybe I'm completely wrong. I didn't, as you can see, guys, we didn't prepare this. I just asked questions. And I remember from our discussion, we talk a lot, Matt and I. Did you not fly with Singapore?
No. I haven't flown Singapore for a long time, actually. But it was definitely in my thought process for Bali.
Oh, yeah. Go for that. Go Bali. What did you...
Yeah, so Bali was the back end of last year. And again, one of those amazing opportunities for me where a client says to you, whatever route you want to take, you can take. So you have this, enviable position of kind of looking at all of the options of how to get to Bali for a conference. My goodness. You imagine me explaining that at home. Hey, Dad needs to go away again. Sure. Where to? Oh yeah, Bali. Basis dropped at Christmas.
It was Christmas as well. I remember.
Early December. Yeah. So, I did consider Singapore because I think, well, I already explained to you, I do tend to look at menus beforehand, and kind of the food choice felt like you have to go Singapore, right?
Yeah.
You have to go Singapore. But one of my wish lists is, and I know you have flown many, many times Qsuite. I had never flown Qsuite. And it remained one, simply because of that bar and expectation of, look, if you're going to fly business, this is the one that you fly. It was like, I want to do it. I'm going to do it. And I get the sense that maybe at some point I'll get the opportunity to see Singapore in the not too distant future. But that, look, okay, I want to do Qsuite. So yeah, I flew London Doha, and then Doha to Denpasar, all Qsuite. And then my return back to London was Bali back to Doha, and then Doha to Gatwick. So I got to fly all of the kind of Qsuite offers that there are available. So that's slightly smaller. I think they still call it Qsuite, but
yeah, it's
not
stretching
really
the marketing and the definition of Qsuite, which is there, so they can choose whether they want to call Qsuite. But the ones that you see is usually the one that is in the 777 and the 350, the cubicle, basically, right?
Yeah, that's right. Which I was really impressed by. I enjoyed it. But so yeah, Terminal 4 at London Heathrow, getting to
that terminal. Yeah, well.
We've had conversations. I despise that terminal. Like it is.
Why?
So my feelings are that it feels like a very, very outdated domestic terminal.
It is. On both counts, it's outdated and it used to be domestic, which is why it's weird. The location is weird. It's not connected with all the rest.
Yeah. And
the layout is weird. It's very tight because clearly it was not meant to have, passport control or even maybe not even a real security back in the day. It was just go out and leave, So, yeah.
But for all of those things, I think, yes, you get through security very quickly and it's easy. And so, but I'm never going to love that term. But fortunately, the Qatar Lounge is very nice, and the food and service in there is great. And my Qsuite experience, what is there more to say on Qsuite? It's, there's nothing. It's great. I had Starlink Wi-Fi, so that satisfied
compared to the non-Wi-Fi situation. Starlink it's going to be. Sorry to interrupt right there, but it's going to be almost like a given. When I read the news of how many airlines are introducing it, so BA, we'll talk about BA later because we have to, because, I want to have your view. BA is introducing it also on short haul, which will be amazing. Like literally, I read every single day, I read a new airline that is going for it. So it seems that a version of Starlink, because they are competitors that are trying now to get off the ground and offer similar things, it's going to be a given in 10 years in long haul. We'll expect to have like fiber speeds, in the skies.
Yeah, it was, and I agree 100%, because it will become standard that level of connection will be across the board. I had the opportunity, and in a way, in that the contrast to the Qantas flight to Perth where there was no Wi-Fi. Look, I'm in Qsuite, so I did something that I think if I was in any other class, I wouldn't have done.
Okay.
I video called my eldest daughter.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, "Oh, you still at the airport?" And I'm like, "No." Look out the window. I'm in the air. And she was like, why are you FaceTiming me? And I think, look, within a booth, like you do have a level of privacy, right? Which meant that I did not feel so self-conscious about having a conversation during flight. But had I been in any other class, and of course anyone can do this, right? You can just make that video call. Are we going to get to a point where people are just calling all the time throughout flights. I'm not sure how I feel about that at all.
We already have the issue of people listening to content without headphones. This is not only in the airport, in the airplanes. Could be in airports, could be in the subway systems. It could be just in the street. Could be in a lounge. Could be anywhere. And I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if you've seen United has introduced. I've added in their condition of carriage.
I did.
You can be expelled from a flight if you refuse to put your headphones on, basically. And I think they already used it once, but maybe this is beyond the point. But the point is that I think other airlines will start to introduce this. I remember Qatar had, and my last Qatar was 6-7 months ago in Qsuite. I remember they had Starlink, but they had something saying, please be, I don't think they forbade video calls, but I think there's something about being mindful. But again, this was what I was reading in business class. Is the same content being shown in economy where it's all open? Or maybe there they say, no, you're not allowed. I don't have a clue. But you're right. It's going to be something that is going to be a question more and more, because with Starlink, you can do, we're talking about 200 up and down, or 300 up and it's really fast. You can do whatever you can do.
I mean, I obviously did the speed check, and I was getting like 300 up and down, and
well, exactly.
It means nothing is different. In fact, it's probably better than the majority of people's homes that they have. So
you can watch your Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, whatever content directly. I'm not sure about how they will manage that in terms of location block, because you're like, oh no, not anymore. Just use a VPN. But it's incredible. Yeah,
it does feel like as this evolves, how we interact on flights and how etiquette evolves throughout, that is inevitable. So United beginning to enforce that. I mean, there is literally, we've discussed this before, it drives me crazy in London when you get on any form of public transport and people are blaring out. Like, the music is one thing, but a video call is next level irritation for me. So
I know.
Open the doors for everyone to do that. Wow. Let's see. But
it's going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying that everybody's going to do it, but like, look, you've done it. And I'm sure you were, because I know Matt very well. He's not a loud person who's going to shout and everybody can hear you and your daughter. But yeah, it's tempting, because sometimes I'm like, I need to make that call. Should I actually do it quickly now? I don't know. Yeah. It was and I did feel incredibly self-conscious doing it. And clearly my daughter's like, what are you doing?
But
you did it for the science as well. You wanted to see if it was.
That was the reason. So I could come on here and talk to you about it.
And it was a cool surprise for your daughter as well. You're like, look, I'm in the air.
Yeah. Obviously, I had headphones on like that. There are standards, right? But no, look, Qsuite was fantastic. The food is very good, if perhaps not, as exciting as it may have been on Singapore. But you get a level which is just exceptional.
Great.
And their chocolate ganache to finish the meal is just. Am I on a flight? This is wild.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really good. And the lounges at Qatar, I was in the garden lounge.
Oh, you were in the new ones. Nice. Yeah.
And, just being able to take a shower and, prep yourself. I had a long way before my Bali flight. So those things were really sensationally good. It's a good airport.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. How long is a flight from Doha to Denpasar? Is it like
It's nearly 10 hours.
No, I was saying 9. Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah. Again, this was like in terms of epic journeys, like it's about a 24 hours, probably longer than, it was longer than my flight to Perth. So
that's why maybe sorry to interrupt, this is maybe also why they do want to offer, at least for business class, because they have to compete with people that are going to try to offer them non-stop direct. I mean, there's no non-stop direct to Bali from London. Let's be clear. They're not even to Jakarta anymore, which is a flight I took with Garuda. That's why they also offer stuff like showers, because they're like, okay, we're going to compete on the price, but also we want you to have something that you say, oh, well, actually, cool, I can take a shower, which I do as well when I'm in Doha or Dubai, or
yeah. And what an amazing difference that makes to be able to do that in kind of surroundings which are comfortable. You feel relaxed. I mean, it was an amazing experience, and I think for last year I was so fortunate to be able to do these massive journeys and to do them in a style which kind of befitted the length of them. So it was what an experience. 2025 was a good one.
Yeah, we have these years that we're almost like a vintage, like on a bottle. You remember because you've done, but also because it's not only about, of course, in this podcast, I love talking because this is what we've built for years, talking about airplanes and the seats and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's the journey itself that makes it a bit, because it's special, something that you've done. I've never been to Bali, for instance, right? So I like if someone would tell me, like, choose your airline and come to Bali. I'm like, oh yeah, this the building of it, the anticipation of it, or what could I try? And of course, enjoying it. I mean, I would not take the menu, you did, but enjoying it. And it's part of like, our forefathers were doing true exploration, going like in crazy unknown places with means of transportation that were probably unsafe, and with kind of a luck of the draw whether or not they'll have a incident, let's not say accident, but incident of the way. We just take a flight, and we're most probably going to get there, and it's going to be fun. And by the way, we can look stuff up before we even go. So it's not the same sense of exploration, but it is a remnant of that feeling, of that sense of exploration that we can actually have. That cuts through the routine of not that our routines are bad, but especially, sometimes, I love London, but it's true sometimes like everyday London. I'm like, can I see something else for like 2 days? And then I'm super happy. I was in Rome like 2 weeks ago, and it's a city I know very well. Just that little cut for 2-3 days, I was like, I'm refreshed. I've seen something else. I've eaten something different. Yeah.
And like you and I are both enjoy taking photographs, and
yes, you take great pictures.
And I feel that when you're in one place, so London is my home, it's trying to discover the excitement that you find when you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to photograph London.
Yeah, same. But it's just because it's our context, is where we live. It's harder to find something exciting in something that is every day for a long time, Like I was having a discussion. We'll talk about Japan a bit later, but I was having a discussion even in Tokyo after a while. And Tokyo is so exciting because for those who haven't been, of course, it looks even more exciting. But if you have, but there are also very mundane things in Tokyo. And so at some point, Shibuya Crossing, I mean, let's take the most obvious cliche, gets old as well. It's like, it's a crossing, and there's a lot of people. Yeah, right. So it's I'm talking about photo. I'm not taking you get bored. I'm not bored of London, but in taking inspiration for creativity. I meant like in terms of taking pictures, for instance, is harder to find in a everyday environment, which also sometimes you mix it with it's work, it's duties, it's stuff that you have to do when you are on even if it's a work trip, because you and I have similar type of work trip. We'll add that like you did. You had a few days in Perth to actually see what is West Australia and to take a few pictures. I would always do that with a client and say, can I add I went in, I don't know, Pristina in Kosovo. I said, you know what, I added 2 more days at the end, and I just walked around and looked at it, and that's interesting. I like that.
100%. I think particularly in these days when I'm traveling, I mean, back in the day, I used to kind of go back and forth just for my, if I'm doing a talk. I remember flying to Taipei and flying back. It was like 48 hours. So I did my talk. I was in Taipei for a day and then flew back to London.
You're insane, man.
Absolutely crazy. And these days, I think you get to a point where no, I want to add on some time. I need to add on some time.
Yeah. But we're lucky too, because we have the ability to through our work. I mean, I'm independent, and you're part of the London College of Fashion is part of what is it, UCL? Is it? Which one? No.
University of the Arts London, UAL.
UAL. There you go. Actually, I did it's not commencement. The end of year speech that you give in front of students was a name of it. Is it commencement? Yeah, I gave one like this URL, so I don't know why I would not remember that it's where you work. Anyway, and your building, actually, the new building I haven't seen is really cool.
Oh, you still haven't been? Yeah, it's extraordinary.
No. Besides the point.
Well, I do get to photograph that quite a lot. So
yes, I see. This is why I meant, guys, we're losing you, so we'll go back to play. Just 2 words. We're gonna. I wanna, because what a month has been. As I said, we're recording this mid-March, and of course, I was in Dubai 3 weeks ago, man. We're not going to go into, I mean, you can do whatever, but I'm not going to go into any political commentary or anything. But since we just talked about QR, I mean, first, of course, I want to, and I'm sure you share that feeling, think about all the people on the ground. Everybody was affected in all the countries surrounding that region, and all the hostilities that are still happening. But if I restrict myself, which is hard when you have such a catastrophe happening in part of the world, but if I restrict myself to travel and the airline world, what a huge capacity loss it is to lose basically the 3 Middle Eastern companies. When I say lose, guys are not gone, but they cannot really fly. Emirates is trying. And for the people themselves, those who live there and, simply want to get out, not because they want to escape, but just because they use, these are the model of the city is a bit like Singapore before or Hong Kong. You work and you work globally, but also especially for Europe and Asia, it's a big loss of capacity. I think overall, if you think about it, 2 weeks on, probably more than 10 million people must have been stranded or have their flight canceled because they were not going there, but they were routing through there. Do you have any bookings that were going through there and you lost or not?
No. And, strangely, I was looking at a few long haul flights for later in the year, and do I go via Middle East? And in the end, chose to fly direct. But beyond kind of similarly your shock and horror at what's happening, that sudden realization of, you just switched off 3 of the world's biggest airports. Well, how is that going to play out?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there is that assumption that generally these things finish relatively quickly.
Yeah,
but it does not look like that is going to be the case.
No, it seems to be dragging on. Look, again, I have no political insights and I have some understanding because this is what I trained for at uni, but I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, it seems to be a bit of a game of attrition, right? So we're not talking, the bombing of Dresden or Grozny or Mariupol or not even Kiev, which thanks to you, because you were responsible. I'm grateful that I was able to go to Kiev during the current war, thanks to you, because you introduced me to the people there. It's not, I mean, I cannot, because I'm not there, but we're not talking about, the airport being completely bombed out of existence and having the airspace closed. No, but it's dangerous. And actually only Emirates is trying to have to relaunch a bit the network, which is, when I say a bit, they're huge airlines. So they still have like dozens and dozens, and even maybe 100 flights a day. So it's not nothing. But there's been, of course, stories when the flight have to suddenly hold and wait for something to clear, or people ask to leave the aircraft, come back in before they take off. But it's not like an everyday thing. I think Abu Dhabi is more, I mean, sorry, Etihad, but Etihad has always been not very good at EROPS, at irregular operations. So they don't really see, but they also have, let's be very fair, because that was a myth of tongue-in-cheek, but they also have like a base next to the airport. So, of course, it's harder, which Dubai doesn't. And Qatar is not, I think they just started today, to fly a few repatriation flights. I'm not sure, they even had flights leaving from Saudi. They repositioned some flights to try to help. I don't know if it's true.
I haven't seen that.
But anyway, the point is, it's tough for people there. It's tough for people that it's just going to make everything more expensive because, of course, if you cannot fly through these, so there's less capacity, and Europe will be touched more. The US will eat less, and Asia a little bit. So our flights will become more expensive. It's always us in Europe. We're getting the short end of the stick when these things happen. And again, guys, let's be clear. I don't want to compare the fact that, poor Paul and Matt cannot have a flight because to the people actually, living through the anxiety that is clear that if you have friends in Dubai, have friends in Abu Dhabi, have friends in Doha, have friends in Tel Aviv, have friends even in Iran, actually, right? So and Iran is bombarded more heavily. So, and even Oman actually was again, no commentary on what is happening, but if you're just there as a Paul and Matt and trying to have a normal life, and then suddenly you hear explosions like people in Kiev, and you're like, what? So this is nothing compared to us. Our experience of not being able to choose Qsuite next time is really nothing in the bigger scheme of things, right?
No, but you begin to get a sense of economic impact.
Mm-hmm.
And how the
100%.
ramifications of these decisions begin to filter out beyond what perhaps was initially expected. And and that will play out across a wider sense of where the world economy gets to. And I'm sure the airlines kind of front up in terms of what they've paid for in advance, but at some point those oil prices are going to have a very significant impact on.
Yeah, I think I think 20% of the seaborne petroleum liquids, let's call them petroleum liquids, oil, of course, is going through that Hormuz, right? Strait. I was trying to find the Strait of Hormuz. So if that capacity doesn't exist, of course, the price of oil. But interestingly, you say that because a lot of people, especially still a week ago, and I know this might feel obsolete in a month or two when you listen to this, because I know some people tend to listen later to this podcast. But there's a price of crude and there's a price of jet fuel. And the jet fuel, of course, is more right now, what's happening right now. It will even out, but the prices, so people were telling me basically a week ago, but look, the price of crude is still, fine. It has increased a little bit. Yeah, but if we're talking just about the airline world and travel, which again has nothing to do with people living on the ground, Asia is, so in Asia, prices are defined by what happens in Singapore. That's kind of the benchmark, right? The jet kerosene of Singapore. I think it went 150% up. So it was below $100 a barrel before all this started. And it's like probably now at 230, 240. Wow. In Europe, it was also 95, something like that. It's called Northwest. It's where basically Amsterdam, that region, or Rotterdam, that is the benchmark in Europe. It was 95. 93, it changes every day, but I'm trying to find something that is just before, and is 170, so that's 80% more. And in the US, which always has, of course, more refinery capacity, they have their own reserves, etc., it went only for 100 to 130, so it's still like 25%, but which is why also, as you see sometimes a commentary in the US, this is not nothing against you guys living in the US, you're a bigger audience. Sometimes you feel this feels more remote because it affects you less. It will affect you over time because if crude will go up, of course, eventually this will affect the entire thing. But so jet fuel is interesting because it's an immediate reaction. But also it's interesting. I'm sorry, keeping the microphone. We'll go back to happier thoughts afterwards. It means that some of the jet fuel, it creates this, simply it's a market. So the US is looking, we can sell that to Asia for more. So they're redirecting route flows, trying to export more. So because it's a price differential. If you can sell for 230 in Asia, and when I say 230 in Asia, it means like the price is in Singapore, like let's say it's 230. It's not a price today. I haven't checked, but let's put 230 per barrel. Japan will be 230 plus 5%, for instance, right? And every country will have an additional, because of freight transport, a little thing on top, which is why the Singapore price tells you the story of Asia. And Asia relies a lot on the imports of refined products from the Middle East, which is why the price increased so much more there. So this is going to affect right now, I think. So Qantas, we would say Qantas are raising their prices. New Zealand, and by the way, Air New Zealand doesn't even fly over the Middle East, but they increase their prices. They want to protect their margins. In Europe, I think Air France KLM yesterday said something about that. And Cathay Pacific just doubled their fees for, the fuel fees on their flights, doubled. So you were right. This is the whole point of what I'm saying. You were right, Matt, to already have booked. If you have a flight that you want to book from this year, book it this week. Because it's only going to get worse. Maybe not, I don't know what's going to happen in 3 months, if all that settles or not. It doesn't feel like it right now, but it could. But right now, the prices are going to rise is the only way up because the capacity loss because of the jet fuel and also the crude oil at some point. So everything is going to be more expensive because airlines have tight margins and they need to make money somewhere. So it's going to be on the flights or the charges of fuel. Yeah, there you go. So you were right to book your flight already to wherever you're going and not hesitate longer.
I mean, it is quite extraordinary to see. So yeah, fingers crossed that plays itself out in a way which delivers some kind of sense of semblance and normality to the world soon enough.
Yeah. I need to add, and then I'll take, because I want to last comment on this, but I need to add that because that's something also that people made a mistake I see online. People say, "Oh, airlines do edge, their fuel." First of all, in the US they don't really do that. In Europe they do pretty well, and in Asia some of them do as well. But most of them do against crude oil, not jet fuels. Yeah. So they're still affected, right?
Yeah.
And even if you do, like airlines, I think Wizz Air is one which is a low cost in Europe, is very exposed. It could lose up to 30% of operating margins just even if they had already edged because of the economics of the airline. IAG, so BA, 5 to 10%. So it's really not. We're not.
It's like you can see the immediate impact.
Exactly, that's the immediate impact. What I'm afraid of, and that's my last comment, and is stagflation. Is the fact that this petroleum is not only flights; it's everything. Is the whole supply chain from food or because of fertilizers to I don't know. The LNG production in Qatar is shut down, so that's helium for your chips in your AI things. You need. So. Yeah, and food and all the plastics. And so, yeah, the economy is not doing super great already. So that's what I'm more concerned about for our future, a little bit of the echoes of the 70s, the oil shocks and our parents having been through that stagflation, which is a tough. Stagflation means stagnation plus inflation. It's a tough one to get out of. It's and usually it leads to what? It leads to cuts in welfare and these kind of stuff. So could be, I hope that's the main reason, besides the people living through this, that's the main reason I hope that this gets resolved quickly, because it's not great.
I mean, I guess that kind of sense of hope is like, I think consumer confidence and flying into those regions again. I always remember, well, certainly during COVID, there was always that kind of idea that perhaps things wouldn't kind of return very quickly, but you see that pent up demand that suddenly people do want to go. I think, yeah, let's hope that things resolve quickly, but undeniably that kind of longer term lag and economic impact seems inevitable, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Would I fly Emirates right now? I don't know. Yes. But I'm like that.
Of course you would. You love them.
But I'm like that. But I think, and I said Emirates could be Qatar or whatever, but I think you're right. I think there will be also like a moment, and I get it, a moment of anxiety of like, should I really route through there? Even, let's say, all gets, it's tough. It's and please do not bring it. It's not you here. I'm talking general. There's this Schadenfreude of people saying, look at the Middle East, and because they didn't like them for all the reasons they could dislike them. And you can dislike them, it's fine, but it's not. I don't find it really nice to be happy in the misery of others. So.
I mean, that has been a fascinating explosion because there's a lot of commentary around that. Globally. Yeah,
at the end of the day. Sorry, I'm going to use the word piss off, guys, because no, but people want to also live. You have bad people everywhere, and probably you have like people that move to Dubai, to the example, for bad reasons, but you also have lovely people that live there, and you have a lot of young people that work in similar fields than you and me, and so anyway, you know what, the only good side about the whole oil shock thing in the US that he created back in the day, he created the deregulation, so maybe something comes out of it.
I think kind of sometimes there's unexpected consequences as you begin to see industries evolve and beginning to look into different ways of servicing needs and how to protect themselves for the future. So
talking about evolving, how is your loyalty to be? Do you fly a lot, Bia? For context, give a context.
I do. Yeah. Of course I do. I'm based London Heathrow, and My loyalty to BA is like many of us, and I've listened to the podcast for so long. I know the conversations that, yeah, I still remain incredibly fond of British Airways, and I think when you get on the planes and you fly the products, that generally they're pretty good. Economy class through short haul, I'm going to countenance, because I think, like Paolo said before, I think the problem comes up with parity. Like if they want to charge the same price for their business class as other providers, there isn't, you cannot compare. They are not the same. That is not the same product. And all of the issues that you face around kind of IT and infrastructure, if you have a problem with BA, you are in trouble. And I think anyone who's flown them over the past 10, 15 years has encountered some difficulties. That customer service element is abominable. The IT is shocking. And we were even talking last week after an update. I still get issues when I log into the app and it doesn't know who I am. I need to log in again. It's like in 2026, it's mind blowing to me where they are.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think kind of there is a level of service that I think, particularly, I mean, I know you flew United recently and we're impressed, but when I think of other American carriers, if I'm choosing who I fly with to the US, I don't know if I'm good. If I'm flying One World, then I'm going to choose BA.
Same. American, I used to enjoy them. American seems to me to have regressed. It's kind of America West now. It's not American Airlines anymore. It feels like,
And if we want to bring kind of my work into a little bit on style and fashion, and
yes, exactly. I wanted to ask you about that, so please go ahead.
There is something about kind of standards which I think are important in how consumers perceive your brand and when you step on a plane, and like BA still retain pretty strong standards around uniform and how their staff look and what they're wearing. I remember a flight not so long ago to New York that I flew with American where, my God, the staff could have, it was like they were wearing their old school jumpers, and one of the guys on the flight, one of the male attendants, his jumper and whatever his shirt was underneath, I forget exactly, had kind of rolled up, so it looked like he had a bit of a crop top on. For someone that perhaps maybe, wear whatever you like, but that crop top look probably wasn't the most advisable. and those bits about like when you come in to land, that the staff come round and kind of check tray tables and open the shutters. None of that happened on that American flight. They couldn't have cared less. It was this shocking disparity. And, for all of the things that BA struggles on, I think kind of when you get on the plane and you see, particularly through economy, and I very rarely fly business class on BA. So that is my one kind of flyer here, that, generally through their standard cabins, the level of service is good, but they have a lot of work to do. I think kind of my last flight to San Francisco with them was, did I fly premium? I might have flown premium economy on the A380 into San Francisco, and they had clearly run out of meals. And so I was offered chicken curry twice as my meal, one for my evening meal, one for my breakfast meal. But they changed the name of it. They said, so the evening meal, it was chicken curry. And then like the next morning it was chicken tikka masala. I was like, what? What is the same? It's just extraordinary stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Just wow. But in general, I think kind of the levels that they get to are good. Are they good enough for the price that they charge? I think Paolo raised that before. No, I don't think they are. And I think this is where they seem to be falling in between that. Do we want to go low cost or do we want to compete? And stuck in this kind of weird place in the middle. I will say that my premium economy experiences, I flew to Sao Paulo in Brazil, and had the shell configuration, so that I think you had a conversation about kind of putting your seat back. It's like everything is done within the shell component of the seats.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of my favorite flights of all time. That kind of,
oh
wow, this is great. It's kind of that the price was good. I'm not shelling out for for business class. It felt like an amazing compromise. The space, I'm 6'5", not as tall as you, but you were able to move in between without disturbing anyone. It was a really good flight. So yeah, I think, it's still a bit of a toss up between what you get. Do you get on the flight? Does your app work beforehand? If you have a problem trying to get hold of customer services, is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
They still have a lot of issues to resolve, but look, I'm silver. So I'm always going to be drawn in.
Do you think you're going to retain that in the next 2 weeks? You think you have it?
Yeah. So
Good.
I will be silver through into next year, and I don't know, looking at my schedule for the rest of the year, there's an outside possibility that I might hang on to that.
Yeah, good.
2027. So,
but that's. I mean, you didn't say that, but if you often make the choice to fly PA, even economy, or you do like Sao Paulo and premium economy, not fly. Oh, I want to try something else. This is that gets you to.
It does. It doesn't feel like. I mean, I know there was so much discourse around when they changed the rewards, and yeah, look, if you're flying for business and you do a couple of long haul business and a little, you're there, and it doesn't feel like a big stretch.
You're there.
Is that such a terrible thing for what this is supposed to be? I think
I think it's I agree. No, I said it. It's fair. It's fair. It's. I understand the disappointment in people.
Yeah.
But on a pure, they're a business. They need money, and they also probably need to reduce the number of people in their lounges.
They definitely do.
And also maybe the number of people who can access these special hotlines for customer service, because they're special people. So there's two ways. Either you create like, above gold, like a platinum. I mean, they have gold for life and super whatever, but you can create like they have GGL, but they can also create like platinum. Like you can keep expanding, but at some point it makes no sense because you lose, or you can reduce though I will say they probably are still fine-tuning it, because I don't know if you've received the email yesterday.
I did see. I didn't go through the details.
They're adding new ways. I think I last said that with Alex, or they're saying, okay, now we're gonna have bonus tiers, and now 3 weeks before the switchover. I mean, before the threshold of your new tiers, they'll say, oh, okay, we're adding extra tier points depending on the fare category now. So, and also, I think they're doubling if you choose SAF, so sustainable fuels. So,
yeah,
I mean,
any additional purchases that you make are going to contribute, which, again, seems
they keep tinkering, basically, which, of course, means that they probably are realizing that they might be losing more people than they thought. And more people are less sticky, which again makes sense because we're all economy. I mean, not all, but a lot of us, at some point, if BA is 30% more expensive than someone else that is in the same category of quality, like, no, why would I go for BA? But some people might actually.
Yeah.
And do these, I think they're tinkering to try to find the balance. But overall, I think it's fair. I would say that for me, I love the staff, as you know, and I love this show. I love making it's an entertainment show, guys. So sometimes I do jokes about Frankfurt, about United Not Anymore, or BA. But at the end of the day, it's BA is a solid company. If you compare it to KLM, if you compare it, remove the Middle Eastern companies, by the way, they remove themselves right now, sadly, and Singapore, and maybe the Japanese, and Cathay economy, and then actually, but BA is not bad at all. Maybe Air France is better. I would wager Air France is actually better. But again, it depends, and it's not that bad. What I really, really think is an issue is the IT, because if a company wants to reduce their customer service approach, they need to let you self-serve more, and the self-serve doesn't work. Every time the app has issues, I cannot get my boarding pass. Now I can get my boarding pass with the last update. But they're like, this is the big issue. And simply, I want to book a flight. oh, we're too busy right now. Really? Well, you're not Taylor Swift. You're BA. I just want to search for a flight. These are the things that, and yeah, that's where, and it's not as if, let's discount the fact that right now maybe the margins will move for all the airlines in the world, what's happening, but they have one of the highest margins in the industry, at least in Europe and probably even globally. So they have some possibility to invest, and they do invest. Let's not pretend they're not. But yeah, I really wish that the IT would be fixed.
Yeah, it would make such a, and it was huge. So noticeable when I flew to Bali. As soon as I got off my Qatar flights, my points were already showing.
There you go.
And yeah, I flew BA a little bit after that, and like it's 2 or 3 days before that shows in the app. It's wild to me. And I on those premium cabins on business class and in first, like I'm not flying in first, but you can see, like, I look at reviews, I see what's out there. It's not competitive for the prices that they're charging. It needs to be better. So,
but they have a captive market, here, and they have one of the most profitable, if not the most profitable route, which is London to New York, which also helps probably. Unless you want to add something about BA, do you want to?
No, only to say that I still, for all of the criticism, it still remains. Yeah, there's something about, I really want them to do well. And I think you've said it before. It's like it feels like there's a personal connection. So go BA, keep going.
They will, by the way, if you like if you love the 380 like I do, they will. I think it was a mistake, but they kind of revealed that they are redoing the entire 380. The whole upper deck will be only business class. I think it will be the biggest business class deck in the world, because Emirates either has first in front on the upper deck or economy seats. So it will be only, I think, 110 or 20 seats of business. So they will keep it. So it's a good thing, because if you like me, the 380 flying BA ensures that you'll have the 380 for longer if they invest in it. So do you like the 380?
I do. And I the 380 I flew a couple of years back to San Francisco, and honestly, it felt a bit old. It did feel a little tired, and that renewal and refurbishment is overdue. And great, but they're amazing planes, right?
I love them. But to be fair, I've flown Emirates 380s that also felt old. It's just at some point, just a wear and tear. It's not the plane that is old. It's like the interior gets like so many people. At some point, it will. I feel. Before we move to, of course, Japan, because I want to talk to about Japan. Thoughts about Heathrow? Because you mentioned Heathrow. Because Gatwick is closer, like you. Gatwick is closer to you. Of course, Gatwick doesn't offer you a lot of long haul, or it's more short haul. But what do you think about Heathrow itself? Besides Terminal 4, we already heard that before.
Heathrow. So my feelings about Heathrow are always mixed, because I think it gets so much criticism internationally as a hub. But like Terminal 5, which is kind of the normal one that I'm using if I'm flying BA.
Yeah, of course.
And probably the one that I use the most. In terms of what I see international, T5 is like, it's got all the restaurants you would want, all of kind of the entertainment that you can imagine. My bigger problem with Heathrow is when I fly back into Heathrow, because I feel like I just circle the airport more than any, and it's almost like clockwork. And then when I land, I'm taxiing for what feels like the length of the entire flight anyway. And then when I eventually get off the plane, I then have to walk for what feels like 4,000 miles. And then if I'm not doing just hand luggage only, then God forbid what happens to my luggage. It's always utterly terrifying how long that process comes through.
Thanks. You'd think that if you arrive at Terminal C, which is the further away from the main terminal when you get to luggage, I give that not for you, Matt, for context for those who don't know Heathrow, Terminal 5, that by the time you take down the elevator or the stairs or the escalators, and you take either the train or you walk, and then you go back up and extra, the luggage should be there, but no, it's not.
Yeah, it never is. And I think I always post on social media about those sorts of things. But As an outbound, look, I don't mind Terminal 5 at all. I think for all of them, the more that you travel internationally and you begin to see the redevelopment of course, the Middle Eastern airports feel like they are on a totally different level. So I think the competitive nature of the industry is, I want to see it force further investment into Heathrow. It needs that runway, and it needs these things have to happen if it is going to retain its status as a kind of competitive international hub. But yeah, for me, I mean, I love Gatwick. It's so easy for me to get back home from Heathrow, from Gatwick rather. It's just and
it feels more self-serve. You just go there, and
look, arriving back into Gatwick, and you have no queues at immigration. You go straight through, out onto a train, and I'm back home within sort of 30 minutes. It's a joy.
Yeah, same. I mean, I had 10, because we don't live very far from each other, guys. I had maybe 10 to 15 to that. So like I can be 40 minutes, I can be home, which is amazing. But also the airport itself, it feels like it's more of a challenger position. Of course, they have also like a lot of more exposure to low cost. So they really try to make it work as fast as they can. Heathrow, I think there's two downsides to it. Not two downsides, two things that made them stuck. First, it's like, we're Heathrow. People are going to use it anyway. It's one of the biggest hub in the world. So it's like, there's not an incentive of changing. But also it feels like to me that the wait for that third runway, or not, is what kind of, they didn't want to invest in anything unless they knew what they were doing with that. Because it feels like if they do that third runway, which seems to be the case that they will go forward with it, the entire investment goes with it. Like the entire, the central terminal, the new terminal, whatever. It's gonna, whereas it feels like maybe for like the last 15 years, they'd be like, we're not going to invest money because we need to know whether we do that big work that's going to be the full work for the next 20, 30 years of work, because it's going to take forever to do all this. And that didn't really allow them, or I mean, it's maybe in their mind, they said, we don't want to invest anything in the meanwhile, because it feels like this airport hasn't changed since the opening of Terminal 2. It's the same. In 15 years, it hasn't changed. And I think it's sometimes unfair to compare it to Middle Eastern airports or Chinese airports. If you simply compare it to Charles de Gaulle, which is similar, big, next door, big hub for Air France, for the national carrier. Charles de Gaulle seemed to Terminal 2 keeps being refurbished. They do stuff, and that's what I'm criticizing the most at Heathrow. Is that it seems to not be moving. Do something. We're crying out loud.
I mean, honestly, just walking into Terminal 3 it feels like being transported back 20, 30 years.
30 years ago. So how is it to be transported actually, that would lead me to, I wanted to go to Japan. As you can see, we transported to Narita or Haneda. But the CEO of Heathrow Airport, just remember me that because we're talking, I think the CEO Airport, did he not say, I think it was a few weeks ago, that the reason that Heathrow feels busy is because Europeans and Britons do not walk on the same side. So they keep like, going into each other, and that's why it feels busier. And I'm like, really? Is that really the case? Do people actually bump into each other because they both walk on the left side? Come on. I don't think that's. I mean, maybe you disagree with me, but I don't think that's the case. But which side? Osaka is not the same side. Tokyo, Japan. Do we all walk at the same side?
Rex. I mean, look, this is also, this is not just a Japan or Asia thing. This is a Londoner thing as well. It seems like we have very strict rules around the underground.
Yes.
Where you stand and where you walk. But
yes,
as soon as you get onto the pavement, the sidewalk, all of those rules go out of the window.
I've tried since I arrived in this country. I was like, which side do I need to go when I'm on the pavement, on the sidewalk, whatever you call it, to avoid? And it never made sense. I've been 15 years in this country, and I'm like, I just want, so I go with it. Usually I was thinking, if I go the same way cars are going on the road, that should do the trick. No, it doesn't.
No, there's no rule. And it is incredibly strange because you walk into pretty much any train station and the announcements will be walk on the left, walk on the left.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway. So Japan, working on the left. So and driving on the left. So Japan, as you said at the top of the show, you used to live there at the end of the 90s. Throughout the early 2000s, and you've been many, many times since. Obviously, you have a special link with that country, like I do, but probably you have a stronger one because you've lived there longer than I did, and you speak far better Japanese than I do as well. What it evokes to you when it comes to travel? Does it, or maybe you want to say how the first time you went there, how incredible it was? Narita? I don't know.
It's probably kind of one of my most memorable travel moments was arriving into Japan for the first time. So this would have been kind of May 1997, something like that, April, May 97. And I was going to visit a friend for a 3-week holiday. And actually, I didn't fly into Tokyo. I flew into Kansai International.
Oh, wow.
I flew Swiss Air.
Nice.
So connected in Zurich. So the old Swiss Air. It was all of it, kind of the excitement of the trip itself. I'd never been to the Far East at that stage in my life.
Oh, nowhere. Anywhere. Wow.
It was my first time in Asia.
Wow. And
I remember the flight very vividly because the flight into Zurich was obviously busy. Plentiful, and then I get on the connecting flight to Kansai International, and there was no one on the flight, and I'm talking maybe 10 people.
Wow.
On the flight. I had 3 seats to myself. Can you imagine that today? That any flight to Japan seems to be entirely full.
Wow.
I flew into Kansai International, and I had to get a domestic flight from there down to Kumamoto, which was where I was going to, and by coincidence, where I ended up living a couple of years later.
Oh, wow.
So my first memories of flying into Kansai were obviously the views as you come into that airport, because it's quite an interesting fly down, and you're landing in the ocean, or what appears to be landing in the ocean. And the smell, Paul, the smell of Japan was something which has never left me. That smell, and if I was to try and identify it, it's probably a bit of Japanese curry mixed with the metallic smell of escalators as you move through an airport. There's something very distinct, and I think every country has a smell.
I agree. And a color.
Fly back into the US, there is a very distinct smell to almost all US airports.
Agreed.
And Japan has the same, and those sensory elements of when you step into something new that you haven't experienced before, from that very first moment of me it felt like my eyes were opening for the first time of, wow, what is this place? And yeah, I flew down to Kumamoto and met up with my friend and had probably the most extraordinary 3 weeks of travel, because I think how many visitors a year to Japan these days? Like nearly 40 million, right?
Oh, yeah. These days, 40 million, nearly 40 million. I think this year will track to 40 million. It was 36 last year, so it's going to be above. Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're alone, men, back then.
97, you're 2 million, I think.
Yeah.
Something
same.
Like
my era was the same. The 2000 same. Not even, man.
Yeah, and again, the majority is still kind of pulling Asia, Europe, and the US. Nobody went. You just didn't go, and so you walk into this country, and particularly as you go out regionally into smaller cities, like I was, that you stand out like a sore thumb. You're a 6 foot tall blonde English.
You're blonde as well, I was about to say.
Yeah. You become quite noticeable in this country, and Yeah, we traveled obviously through the very predictable routes of Kyoto and then entered Tokyo and then flew back from Osaka as well. So it was a life-changing moment, and I think I'd always wanted to live internationally, and I think it was a decision that I made whilst I was there, that this would not be the end, that I fell in love with the place and decided to find any way possible for me to get back there.
As what was his name, Jack in Lost, we got to get back to the island. We got to get back to the island. This is a lot of people feel like that after leaving, whether it's as a tourist or people even to this day. Me, I've lived there, and I'm probably never going to live there again for many reasons. Yeah. But if I remove the rational part of myself, if I just listen to the emotional bits, and I was like, let's go, I'm leaving tomorrow.
100%. It's really strange given all of the years that have passed.
And
how much the country has changed. That I've had so many, and probably my side hustles should be writing recommendations and tips and travel itineraries for my friends who go to Japan, because the amount of colleagues from work who are like, Matt, I'm going, could you just do me
I've done the same.
a little itinerary? Like, sure, I can do that. And they come back and they're like, this was a really life-changing experience for me. And it's hard. You're like, yeah, okay, cool.
It is.
People still feel that as much as...
Yeah, they do.
It still has that. And, the country it's not our Japan, as we've discussed on many occasions.
Yeah, but the same way that someone could say the New York of the 80s is not their New York compared to now, or London of the 90s, more grittier and rougher. It's not. Now it's a gentrified London, right? You go to Peckham for drinks. I mean, so similarly, Japan. And what I always say, because there's a nostalgia, I was about to say I like nostalgia. I think there's something nice into introspection and looking at the past, because it also can be very reassuring. It can evoke nice memories. I said as well, it can be the enemy of progress. But for someone, whether you're friends or someone simply younger that was unborn even in the 1990s or the 2000s, they have never seen another. There's no other version of that. The only version they know is the one they will discover the first time. So we can. We're not doing, you and me, we don't doing that, but we can, go and be professors about, it was so much better. Yeah. That version doesn't exist anymore. It's not useful to tell them that. It's useful over a drink maybe, but that version of Japan, that version of London, that version of New York is the version that they will fall in love with. And that the version of 1960 will never exist. You know what I mean?
And it's been, in some ways it's allowed you to, and, for all of the reasons that we've discussed in the past, that, that relationship with the country is very complex. Yes. But it's allowed me to find enormous joy to see other people's excitement and fascination, and for them to fall in love with it in the way that I did all those years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
I remember when I didn't bring, but when we went with Alex to Tokyo for the first time for his first time to record his attaché, that was 10 years ago. That man, time flies. He changed.
Yeah,
and he's a super well-traveled person. He's traveled. I don't know. It doesn't rank if it's more than you, more than me, less than me. It doesn't matter. He traveled. He's seen things that I haven't, and he changed them. And I think this is one of the countries that does that to you. And it did to me as well. For me it was Narita, but I agree with the smell. There's something.
It's a real thing, and
it's a real thing. You're right.
I tend to think, I look a lot at how people are beginning to discover cities in China now, outside Shanghai and Beijing.
Same.
That are going to have similar experiences to what Japan used to be like.
Agreed.
20, 30 years ago, with very little international tourist visits, but yet these are the most extraordinary cities that you're seeing. I think that is something that I personally want to do a bit more of.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. And not trying to recreate these moments, because they're always lost in time anyway. Yeah. But because there's something to be said about being completely lost. We didn't have, and I will feel like an old person, not to you, but others. There was no iPhone. There was no mapping system. There was nothing written in Romaji in English, basically. Not nothing, but very little compared to nowadays. The stations in Tokyo nowadays have a number and a letter. So it's easy. Even if you don't know the name of the station, you stop at Y12.
Yeah.
None of this was, so this feeling of being lost is something that, as people know, listening to this podcast, I always enjoy when I go to cities. I turn my phone off. I want to be a little bit lost. I've done that, I don't know, in Hanoi, for instance. I know I'm not going to be lost. We're not talking here like I'm going to conquering a country. We're going like in a city in Japan or Hanoi. You're going to be fine. That feeling was probably enhanced, that love for a new place when I arrived to Japan like you did, because I was like, I get it because I see a car and a building and a train. So these are things I know. But then all the rest is layers you have to go through to try to make sense of it. And at the beginning you don't, or then you think you understand them, but then you realize you made bad assumptions. You didn't understand them correctly. It's really fascinating. That thing is something.
There was very little English. There was kind of, English menus in a restaurant weren't a thing.
No.
That sense of kind of genuinely that lost in translation where that film sat. Echoes that time. And I think in many ways when I look at China and the kind of that being lost, that disconnection from the wider world simply because of what kind of internet, or if you've got your VPNs running, then you're all good. But that sense of like you can't even use cash if you're not or your Alipay set up or your WeChat. You're in a totally different world. I think that experience still exists today.
Yes.
And that level of experience of being able to feel lost like that is...
And to try stuff that you don't know, like the food.
Yeah.
Like
food.
I would go to Japanese restaurants, to restaurants in Japan, sorry. And I don't know, I was like this, like I would point out at the sign, I said, just bring me this. And I didn't know what I would get. And that's something that is, there was no like Google Translate to try and make sense of it, like, or having read a TikTok that this place is a must see. I didn't know, just go. I like that.
It was to kind of think back. I mean, I had so many books about Japan before.
Yeah, of course.
Before I went, and some of them had a few photographs, but YouTube wasn't a thing, and so you were only able to kind of create a sense of them through your imagination and maybe a photograph, and then that experience of it is only yours. This isn't something which is shared across the world.
100%.
These are things which. It make you feel differently about the kind of experience that you have.
Yeah. But even if you remove all this, which, I mean, people still have, even with Google Translate, even with more English languages, it still is a very different experience. So I'm still happy that people can go. When it comes to travel, did you travel a lot within Japan internally?
I did. A lot of my friends made a big effort to go internationally, and they were going to the Philippines and obviously to Korea. And from my city in Kumamoto, there was a ferry which went directly to Korea, but I never did it. It's like one of those things. But all of my time was traveling domestically across Japan because I wanted to immerse myself, and for language-wise, I wanted it to be Japan. So that obviously involved a lot of air travel as well across the sea, as well as, of course, the incredible rail network that exists in the country, which is, one of which brings me enormous joy.
But Kumamoto didn't have the Shinkansen back then. Now the link is done. I think the link is done now, right? The full link.
I was able to do that in 2018 for the first time. I think
because I did it as well, but I did it before. When I did it, it stopped. This is minutia for people listening, but it was not full, so I needed to switch trains at some point and to go back up to a Shinkansen. I think now it's fully done. You can go to
you can. There is a change at Hakata, Fukuoka, which is a great airport as well. If anyone's flying into Fukuoka, is an amazing city. But if you ever get my favorite airport in the world will always be Kumamoto Airport, KMJ, at the initial.
I've never been.
Look, there's nothing, but it's been renewed, so I haven't seen it recently. But there's something really magical about Japanese airports, which, like the restaurants, you're beginning to get a sense that food is important to me when I travel. to be able to have local dishes. So you get that speciality for each region within the airport, and you'll have whatever it might be. I mean, in Kumamoto, raw horse meat is a big thing, so you can have that if you want. But that level of unbelievable quality, which I think, we don't get so much in Europe. There's that very... We're so used to all the big brands turning up. I think that kind of sense of regionality and speciality is what makes traveling through Japan really, really special. And you can have that in kind of every domestic airport that you fly to. But I do have incredible memories of during rainy season, so it would have been a June time, having to fly to Kobe for a conference. But I was with a big group of friends, and we got stuck because the rain was so torrential. We had, 6-7 hours in Kumamoto Airport, drinking all the beer and eating all the food, and probably being awful gaijin. But yeah, I'll be traveling back to Japan later this year, doing a bit of island hopping, and I'm excited to see some of the Okinawan airports and, beyond Naha, and we're flying to Miyakojima.
Oh, nice.
These much smaller airports, which are amazing.
Are you flying via Tokyo and then back down, or are you flying via, let's say, Taipei?
We're flying to Haneda.
Yeah, Haneda. Okay.
A few days in Tokyo, and then from Haneda to Naha, and then Naha Miyakojima.
Oh, nice. Very jealous. Extremely jealous. Not jealous, but Japan has, and there's also something. If we keep it to flying, there's something very cute. I don't think it's the right term, but about the minutiae of explaining to you at a check-in counter if you have to go, like, this will be the seat you will have, and this is and they give like 4 boarding passes explaining where the lounge is, and they point everything. There's something that I saw. I'll be honest, when I was living there, at some point these things were heavy. I'm like, because I'm a self-starter guy, and I was like, come on, you don't need to give me all this. Can I just go now? Yeah. I'm not talking here specifically about airports, but this sense of Japan has had a sense of people hand-holding you all the time, which I appreciate. But as someone in everyday life, I'm more like, leave me alone type of guy. But that I don't live there anymore, I find these things really, really, again, cute is maybe not the right word, but I will use the word that everybody uses, cute, that you have all these boarding passes and everything is so neatly organized and yeah.
on that note, I mean, one of my favorite flying experiences in Japan, and I know that Alex loves Ishigaki. Yeah. I flew to Ishigaki probably 2012 for the first time. And it had always been on my list to do. But they've renewed the airport now, so it's much bigger than it has so many more tourists. But back then it was a very, very small airport. But it did have one of my favorite experiences of all time. Like flying into Ishigaki, you land on the tarmac and you have your stairs down onto the tarmac, and there's a bus to greet you and to take you to the terminal. And I don't know, there must have been about, how many people on the flight? 40, 50? Maybe one bus, maybe 2 buses. But you get on the bus and it took you probably 20 meters to the terminal. You literally get on it. It goes forward and stops, and they say, thank you very much. Here you are at the terminal. And even the Japanese people on the flight, you could see the giggles breaking out. That is the level of hand-holding that that's
Japan. Yeah.
That is Japan.
That is Japan. I agree. But that's what, you know what I mean? It's cute.
But it's so unforgettable. It's so magical. And
I agree.
It plays into that, you're a customer and you're being delivered incredible levels of service to make you feel special. So.
I think that's the thing that I'm not OCD as declared OCD. Just I'm I don't have an illness or like a condition. I don't know if it's an illness, but the point is, I like stuff that is really well thought out, well designed. I like attention to details in general in life, whether it's in work or, I can go with the 80-20 because, you need to live a rational life and to actually get stuff done. Otherwise you'll be stuck in a minutiae forever. But Japan has this. You mentioned the quality of the food at the airport, or the fact that they will offer local food at the airport. There's something to be said about thinking about all these details, not only for the customers, but simply for the general living, experience in Japan for a local person. And that's something that we don't have as much in Europe or in the US. It doesn't mean that we're worse. It means this is a different approach to life as to what we think it is. But it's true that for someone like me, maybe it's the case for you, who pays attention to details, what drives me crazy with something is clearly not paid attention, which is why, coming back to BA, some of the stuff I'm like, it's fine because it can get better. Some of the stuff is like, maybe they will get, they need to, as in, I don't blame them because others are doing that. There's some stuff when it really bothers me is like, nobody paid attention to this. And this is where Japan is very satisfying. And trust me, there's a lot. I hear I'm not talking to you, Matt, when I say trust me. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work in Japan either. But it feels that there's an attention to detail, even if it doesn't work, actually. Everything that doesn't work also has a very detailed not working. But if that is very satisfying, to be honest. And that's something that's probably expresses itself a lot for people that go there through that customer service, through that great quality of food, the offering. You see that through that attention to detail.
Yeah, and I think, that structure to society when it plays itself, particularly when you begin to interact with infrastructure and public transport, these are elements where you benefit massively from that. But I think kind of the ability for the system to work as well as that means that everybody has to follow the rules to enable that to happen.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there's a very strict structure around how these things work. And I think as a tourist, to come into contact with that is incredibly uplifting.
Yeah.
To begin to place yourself into that for the longer term, for your working life, involves a relaxation of perhaps, or an acceptance you simply need to give in to the society that you're entering into.
I agree. And that applies everywhere, but in Japan specifically, you need to give in. You need to say, this is it. This is the place. This is the way, the rhythm of the place. You said the smell, the colors, the fabric.
Yeah.
If you resist it, you'll have sometimes bad experiences. Just go along with it. And in Japan especially, but honestly, that does apply to every single travel, every single country I've done. You let it go. You say, this is it.
Look, I am super pumped to fly domestically again in Japan, and we'll be flying ANA internally, and I'm looking forward to the ANA consomme, the yuzu juice.
Are you an ANA or JAL more?
So actually, it's funny. I was kind of looking back on,
or Peach maybe, or Starflyer.
Well, there was a consideration for those domestic, but we're flying ANA simply because I've got a bunch of ANA miles from some Lufthansa business class that I did a while back. So that's what we're doing domestically. But I love both Japan Airlines and ANA. I think kind of that comparative, and we used to split when I was doing a lot of work between Japan and the UK. I don't know. I was looking at all of my flights, and I've got, there's hundreds that are ANA and Japan, and it's a fairly equal split between them. But I did really consider the low-cost carriers into Miyakojima because the airports that you fly into is different. So there are two airports on Miyako Island. Well, there's Miyako Airport, which is on Miyako Island, and then Shima, which is Shimoji Island. And the low-cost carriers fly into Shimoji. And that airport looks like a luxury hotel.
Oh, wow. Really?
So regardless,
that.
I'm not flying into it, but I will go visit it because it is one of those you wander in and just see it. It looks amazing. And actually there's, where the flights come into, they fly in over kind of these azure blue waters. So as a keen photographer I'm going to try and create some opportunities to capture the planes coming into that extraordinary airport. So it's one that I will go look at anyway.
Yeah.
But low-cost carriers into Miyako Island, I would firmly recommend anyone to, because the landing looks incredible, and the airport itself is like, wow.
I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes because I don't know that part of Japan. The old islands, it's nothing. It's probably because it's I know tropical islands kind of thing. When I was like, I want to see. I've seen up and north, left and right. I've seen the rest of Japan, pretty much everything. Not everything, of course, but I've made the effort to. And I was like, yeah, I will go one day, and I probably have to, because after listening to you now, I'm like, just for that airport.
You and I was really it was a big decision to make, like which islands we're going to do, and part of that is influenced by the airport experience. There's another one which is actually part of Kagoshima Prefecture, but it's Yoron Island, and I think you're going to get that kind of original Ishigaki Island where you get transported for about 10 meters, and they actually have their luggage rack, which is about kind of a meter long. they take it from the tarmac onto it, place it onto the carousel, which is just horizontal, and then lift it off and give it to you. It's like these things I want to do.
That's what I said earlier, by attention to details. Like, we're going to do the entire experience no matter what. And I love this. This is why I use the word cute. I don't know if cute is maybe not the right word.
It's amazing, and I want it. I love it. So that is still on the to be done list. But and look, they're going to love flying into Naha and seeing the aquariums within the airport when they arrive, and all the tropical fish. So that, all those fun things of this feels different, this looks different. I think kind of going back to that sense of adventure, that it's not the usual. And I think wherever I have that opportunity to tick those boxes of doing something which feels slightly out of the ordinary, that's what's driving that sense of desire to travel.
I agree. And I think Japan, no matter all the words about over-tourism, which, I mean, the world is just getting busier everywhere. I mean, I was in, as I said, I was in Rome two weeks ago, off-season. I mean, it's always busy. There's going to be people more and more. I mean, it's not, but Japan still has, if you go out of let's put it a different way. I think the cliches, you said it, you did say that sentence, but you need to do Kyoto. The cliche is the famous triangle where everybody goes. There's a reason everybody goes. Well, exactly. It's worth it.
Yeah.
Don't avoid it. But beyond that, there's a lot, depending on your taste. It could be an island. It could be going to the north. It can be going skiing. I don't care.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to offer where you're still going to be alone, or you're going to be the only tourist, maybe, or very few, and that still happens. Don't let the headlines tell you. Even though Matt mentioned 40 million, even if it's Paris, France has 100 million, you can still find French villages where there's not a single other person. Everybody speaks French. So Japan has capacity, but it feels like, of course, if you're going only to Shibuya and Kyoto, that you'll feel a lot of people, obviously, but there's still so much else that you can still see. So yeah.
And I think even within those big cities, and I think I posted last time I went to temples in Kyoto that people don't go to. Saturday afternoon, I'm the only person there. It's my favorite temple in the whole of the country, with kind of so many personal memories from over the years. And it's Saturday afternoon in the height of summer, and I'm the only person in the temple. These things are all achievable if you seek to go just that bit further beyond.
Yeah, I think, but that applies to Japan as it applies to everywhere. You can go to New York and just stay on Times Square.
Exactly.
Well, fine. Or come to London and stay on Oxford Circus. And but there's so much more so that applies everywhere. But I think Japan is going through that phase of no one has ever been to Japan. As in, you said it earlier a bit. There's a lot of people we haven't seen Japan. We're lucky to have seen it earlier. So they're all going through the same locations at the same time, because they all want to do it for the first time, and that creates that clogging aspect.
It's undeniable, and it's very visible when you're there.
Yes.
So,
I agree. Anything? Because I wanted to ask two more things before we wrap this up. I'm gonna. Anything else you wanted to add about Japan or travel in Japan or flying in Japan or
no? I mean, I'm excited to fly back to Okinawa. I spent New Year's Eve 1999 in
nice.
To see how much that has changed. But I think no. I mean, other than to recommend to anybody who's flying in, because if you have an international ticket, you get discounted domestic flights anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Japan is really trying to push people out beyond kind of those big regular spots. Take that opportunity, fly, go see other parts of the country. There's so much more than that golden route.
Yeah, and book it this week before the flights get
if it wasn't expensive enough already.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. It became, because everybody wants to go, so it's already very very expensive. Just the 2 words. Do you, with all that you've do in looking into the potential future application of technologies, you mentioned AI, we mentioned the volumetric, what's it called? Volumetric?
Virtual production.
Virtual, or capture, whatever, yeah. Or I know you've done other stuff. You've done like avatars. You try things because that's the whole role of your organization. Do you see any links with beyond fashion, basically? Do you see any, or do you have any interest beyond fashion? I mean, of course, someone like, I don't know the brands that work with you, but the big fashion names that we know, or in the content business of the Vogues of this world, will be interested to what could be happening. But do you think, when you travel, do you think like, oh, this I've done at my work, this could work right here?
Yeah, it is really fascinating, because I think kind of our use of the technology obviously is very specific to fashion, but I think kind of the fashion industry has always kind of proclaimed itself as an early adopter of technology, which is always really hilarious to me, because nothing further from the truth. But you begin to get a sense of where are the parallel existence, because so much of the work that we're doing, because primarily the skill sets of my team sit around kind of 3D artificial intelligence, and this is digitization. So we do a lot of work which is very close to the movie industry, and are effectively with storytelling. Everything about the fashion industry is about storytelling. You want to take people on a journey to kind of convince them. I think we've always been, and one of my big things whenever I talk is about our ability to create emotion. Like none of us, we buy clothes maybe for a kind of practical reason. There might be necessity in a purchase, but beyond that, you have to feel something when you go shopping. None of us need anything more. We all have enough clothes. There are more than clothes in the world. But people fall in love with something. You see something and it sparks, and like whatever you wear changes how you feel. This kind of sense of how your clothes can change your relationship with the people around you, how you perceive yourself. These are real things that I see playing out every single day. So it is really fascinating when you're on a journey utilizing technology to effectively tell a story. It cuts across so many different industries. And so we have been very close to the film industry for many, many years, which has, for me, created some unbelievable opportunities to work on and consult on franchises and things which are very close to my heart. And as an 80s child, and you grow up in love with certain things, and to be able to input into those has been extraordinary. But also, the automotive industry and travel would fall into that. This is about brand storytelling. It's how do people engage in certain environments, and particularly our work in immersive technologies is how do you begin to transport people into different worlds and make them feel differently about the experience they're currently having? And that might sit around location-based experiences where you stick a headset on someone, or increasingly less so, you can do that even without a headset, but make them feel as if they're in a 3D world. But how does that relate to travel? Like, you can begin to see the cost of screens is dropping so dramatically that LED film and all of the kind of plastic and rollable screens become deployable in different scenarios. And I think there've already been concept cabins which, begin to change and give you a sense that you might be somewhere else. I think you're always looking at where is the application of technology beyond just our industry. Yeah, it's a fun thing to be able to explore, but I think, yeah, absolutely, we've done lots of work with automotive, telecoms, not so much with aviation. I mean, we have, and the college does do a lot of work with aviation brands on uniform, and I think there are even uniform projects running as we speak.
Oh,
not that I'm involved with.
Of course, I know.
Kind of the students delivering and where consultancy around what changes the way that people feel towards a brand. These are very critical moments when people engage with soft product, and that is something that it's interesting how much is emotion driven, and that feels very closely aligned to the kind of work that we do.
Yeah, and you can see the hints sometimes of you mentioned, the interior of the cabin changing. Simply with all the LED lights now, they're trying to do that. Icelandair is well known to try to imitate the Northern Lights in their cabins. They're trying things. What I would sometimes love, and I know sometimes they don't have the margins for it, but what I would sometimes love is that they would listen to people like you more than doing stuff for the sake of technology. I don't know if you remember, is it still there? That fake avatar before you take the train at Terminal 5. That's
the hologram that they...
The hologram.
Project.
It's rubbish. It's just like, let's do something that looks futuristic, which, by the way, 3 months later looks like 1970 because because it has no purpose, no real connection to the brand, no emotional attachment to it. Right. It's just a gimmick that at first, and here I'm not dissing especially on BA or Heathrow for doing that. I'm just saying in general, in airlines, they try to do stuff like, I don't know, was it NFTs with Lufthansa? I forgot what it was anyway, but they try to do stuff because it's in the moment, and it seems that everybody's talking about it, and it feels innovative, but actually is disjointed from that rest of the experience that you mentioned, which is something I work at. I'm more into experience design, but not in the way you approach it, and it feels completely out of.
Yeah,
so I wish they were listening to people like you more. Like, this is a holistic view from the uniform to the use of technology and LEDs, for instance, in flight. Everything it's an entire journey.
It's a massive issue, particularly around technology. I think it's always been that. What is the sparkly, shiny new thing? And look, I'm all for experimentation. But we're lucky that we get to do it within kind of a lab experience before rolling it out to the general public. Let's get a sense of what matters to people, what makes them feel something. Because if you can do that, you win half the battle. You begin to convince people that there's that genuine connection. These feel very important when you're getting on a plane, and as you've said, even before that point. All of that experience of how you move through an airport, how you engage. Yeah, there are solutions that,
I agree. Yeah. And especially because it is, then we'll probably move on because I want to let you go at some point, but it's also, first, the experience can be stressful for people. Airports can be clogged, security can be slow, and these are some of the stuff. I mean, security is getting better nowadays because of these new machines, etc. But there's stuff that are imperatives that you cannot move.
Yeah.
So playing around it to make the entire experience feel less stressful or more agreeable in general are things that are possible without having just a fake avatar down an escalator that tells you, welcome to the train. And maybe it sounded like a good idea at the time, by the way. And I'm sure others have tried stuff like this. It's not here again specifically against Heathrow, but it feels sometimes these things, like you said, the technology are being used for showcases, because someone like to get a company, but not within an entire journey of from me to I'm so looking forward to going to Nara. But between now and then, there'll be the app that doesn't work. Then there'll be traffic on the highway to get to the airport. Then the security will be clogged. All these things that maybe the airline has surely the airline has besides the ICPA, has no hand over, but they can try to find ways to soothe you through that journey still, I think.
Yeah, and I think, given how much conversation there is around the pace of change, and I think it's hard not to open up any social media app and discover that each and every industry that we've ever known is cooked or dead because artificial intelligence is actually how long it takes for that to filter into kind of general public use, beyond kind of the general public into corporations. Like,
my God.
This is not something which just overnight changes.
We agree.
But nonetheless, I think kind of what you described is a much more personal relationship with every experience. And you do feel that the amount of data points that are being surfaced through our everyday usage of whether it's an app or simply being within a physical space, all of these data points are going to enable brands across, every sector to offer something which feels a lot more personal and not just like a ridiculous targeted ad in a way potentially, and we do this for retail, but this is like that moment of making you feel special. That is really important in customer service, and to do that at scale has always been very difficult because ultimately it lands up on an individual to have a one-on-one experience with you that you value. Those are the things that I think over time will become much more scalable.
Yeah, I think it's what you just said is perfect because the higher the scale of an airline, if I restrict the discourse of what we just discussed here about airlines, the harder it is to maintain all the touch points we're talking to crew here that you're going to interact with so that it feels part of a single brand element. I want to be clear. I'm not asking for every single BA employee, JAL employee, or American Airline or GOL employee to be robots following exactly what they should say at minute. This would be a nightmare. These people need to have their personalities, their good days, their bad days, their context, the environment, blah, blah, blah. But I admire companies. It is what I often said about Emirates, for instance. I admire companies that are able to scale, that it feels like you're always in the similar type of brand the whole way throughout. And and BA does it really well when it comes to, I think, the staff. Most of the staff I interact with at BA, I went to Rome with BA. They were lovely. And I feel it's BA, it's not Virgin. If I restrict myself to the two exactly. I am at BA. It's not like some transplant from I don't know, some other airline that is working. I'm like, okay, I'm at BA. And I'm at EasyJet. I like EasyJet. As I've said many times, I can feel I'm EasyJet. It's not hard. It doesn't mean that you need like billions to train the staff, but you feel that there's something about the experience that
Yeah, and particularly, that opportunity for regular travelers, like for yourself to kind of know that you are a regular traveler and that maybe, some point if you're transiting between different points that they might know where you've come from and where you might be going to. These are things which allow staff to begin to add their own layer of personality onto that.
Exactly.
But give them the data in real time to begin to make a really special experience.
Would you ever, switching gears before we close the show, would you ever, because you mentioned at the very top of the show that you were also involved, you just mentioned now with AR, VR, would you ever put an AR or VR, not AR, that's a VR headset on a flight to watch content?
I was going to ask you this question. Have you seen anyone wearing an Apple Vision Pro on a flight?
No, not yet. I've seen pictures. Of course, near and around San Francisco, because you always have a guy. I've seen people with some type of goggles, which were probably some VR, AR, but I don't know. But rarely.
My answer is no, because I'm just not carrying any more stuff with me. Look, maybe if I'm taking it for a particular project that we're working on, then maybe I would. But
what if the airline was giving to you, instead of giving you a screen? It's not going to happen, guys. This has been tested. I think Qantas was doing that at some point. What if would you put a to watch content or not?
So, look, I think one of the things that the Vision Pro does do really well is content viewing, because there's your cinematic screen, your IMAX right in front of your face. And one of those things which I always feel terribly bad about, it's like you're excited when you see a new film on a flight that you haven't seen before. But what if it's Oppenheimer? Like, this is, you're watching Oppenheimer on a tiny, this is not exactly how the director intended it to. It feels like such a betrayal to watch films in that.
The Vision Pro, you tried it, I'm sure, because of your work. I've tried it only once, but it has this, like, in front of me I have a 32-inch. This is how I work every day. I love big screens. But I'm like you. When I travel, less I have with me is better. So I have like a small phone. But the Vision Pro is good at giving you the sense of depth. So you can create something that feels like you have a very, very big screen in front of you, whilst actually it's not a big. So you could probably create something that is similar to an IMAX experience. And watch Oppenheimer on it with that.
And that, I think,
I don't know how jarring it would be when there's turbulences. That's the
only which would definitely be a thing. But maybe you're so immersed that you don't even notice. But I think, it seems unlikely, doesn't it, with the direction that most airlines are taking. But that is for me one of those areas where you think, wow, that would be fun, isn't it? You've got your IMAX in the sky, and you can actually genuinely watch films to the kind of quality that they were meant to be viewed in. Beyond that,
maybe, because that's a question I never asked. I will ask now. Do you have a favorite uniform? It's only because you work in fashion related. I'm going to ask you that, but before the quirk, maybe having these glasses, because this for me is always something, we've been more and more, we've been directing our lives. We have a soundtrack for our lives. We're having, headphones. We can do filters on photos that we share, and more these is live. I'm not here putting judgment if it's good or not. I'm not a lot of social media, but I'm saying it feels like more and more we can direct our lives. It feels to me that the next step is that I can decide what you wear when you're in front of me, Matt, and I can decide that the environment that I want to see around me is bad. So that's why I do this, because you say you're going to tell me, maybe do you have a uniform that you prefer from the crew, or in general that you admire, maybe. And I will say, but maybe it doesn't really matter, because we all have glasses at some point. I can invent how you actually look like.
I'm just trying to imagine the kind of compute power required to do
I know.
in real time. But do I have a favorite uniform?
Or one you admire?
I think I don't really, if I'm honest, but I think what I want to get a sense of when I travel with any particular airline is a sense of identity. And I want to believe the experience all the way through. So, I mentioned American previously, but it was shambolic, right? And there was no sense of pride, and you want to see standards in whoever that's delivered with, and I think you do tend to see that for the most part with everyone that you travel with. And I flew Finnair last year for the first time in ages, and the experience was fantastic at every point.
I love them.
And of course, I mean, Etihad was fine. Emirates, all good, very polished. I think I want to get a sense of the airline's identity, and I think it's that believability, that kind of emotional connection that is really critical in that. And there aren't too many that I get onto and start nitpicking about uniform, other than some American carriers.
They should watch, because you mentioned that before, They should watch. I don't know if you've ever watched The Bear, that show about. Yeah. There's that famous episode called Forks when Richie gets into that training and suddenly wears a suit, and it changes him completely. And that really ties into what you said about how what you wear can modify you. And I think having a certain sense of pride to the workplace, which is an aircraft in that instance, can actually do wonders for our perception of that experience. So maybe American Airlines should actually watch the Forks is called Forks in the Bear, that episode. I think you already said, because I wanted to finish on this, but I think you already said, I usually ask what's your favorite airport and what's your flight experience is. You can still do whichever you want. You mentioned the first one you arrived in Japan through KIX. By the way, I think the smell also, you arrived in 97, you said? KIX was open probably end 94, so probably it still also felt very new because everything was still brand new.
Very metallic, very, and then kind of that Japanese.
But besides that, if there's any other flight that you want to mention because it's a particular memory or it was just cool, please go ahead. And then we'll finish with your favorite airport. We can be the one you mentioned before, Kumamoto, so please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think favorite flights. There are so many, but I think you tend to look at those really magical moments. I think kind of first waterplane flight into the Maldives, my honeymoon 20 odd years ago, because we went back fairly recently for our anniversary. But that waterplane arriving into true paradise and touching down in a way which, like, you've seen a billion times on TV, but to actually have that experience is so exciting. So I'll put that one as my favorite, because I remember just touching down and you're at this little pontoon, and then you get into a boat and they row you to reception.
Yes.
These
I remember that as well.
These travel moments which are irreplaceable. So I'll go with that one for a favorite.
And do you have besides the one you mentioned, you can still use that one. Do you have an airport that you particularly love, or maybe evoke something because of your youth? Or when I say favorite, it could be anything. Maybe.
I think it's hard to look beyond kind of the Japanese airports that I've referenced for all of those reasons. I think Kansai International will always hold probably the dearest memory, because it has changed the direction of my life from that particular moment. So there's not a point at which I step into KIX and not think back to that very first moment. So I will go with Kansai International Airport.
And you are explaining better than I was able on this podcast why I prefer Narita. Because to this day, for me, is the first ever touch point had with that country. Mm-hmm. And when I fly today, in Narita has changed, obviously, but I feel that moment. I can see part of the airport because he has changed me completely. I'm like, yeah, I remember that. And I think that's there's, and I know Haneda, blah blah blah. I understand, but I cannot have that same feeling of emotional bond. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it ties across probably all of my work of how we try to connect what we do, and through those experiences, that emotional link, make people feel something.
Yeah, I agree. I'll run the end music now, and I'll ask you what's your next flight?
I am about to book a very special flight this afternoon.
Oh.
I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But I will report back to you in due course. But it's going to be a really, really exciting one.
Okay, and what is maybe then? Do you have a flight that is already booked for whatever next? That is, doesn't have to be fancy. It can be going to Paris.
No, I think I'm heading to Europe, to Geneva.
Nice.
in June, and then there might be more than one visit to Japan this year as well. Which
I'm very jealous. Geneva. Well, actually, you know what? I'm also going to be in Geneva in the early summer, so we can actually.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, exactly. Me, when is next? I think Lanzarote. Yeah, I'm going to Lanzarote next week for a little bit of holidays. And on that, thank you so much, Matt, and happy travels, everyone. You can say something to say goodbye if you want.
Bye, everyone, and safe flying.
Nice.